Thank you. Okay. Whew. Okay. All right. Lesson 23. Oh God. Oh. Okay. Oh God. Oh God. I can escape from the world I see by giving up attack thoughts. The idea for today contains the only way out of fear that will succeed. Nothing else will work.
You don't got nothing in you.
Everything else is meaningless. But this way cannot fail. Every thought you have makes up some segment of the world you see. It is with your thoughts.
Read that again. Thought you had.
Oh. Every thought you have makes up some segment of the world you see.
Now, stop. Super Bowl. What segment of the world is it that you see there? There's always going to be something. There's always going to be something. And you're either going to deal with it or you avoid it. Dealing with it looks like recognizing it's there, but accepting that it's an illusion. I seem to have this attitude in me about a section of the world I see that's prevalent, and it shows up again and again and again in different ways, in different situations, with different people. But it's the same old section of the world I see, just changed into another form. Today it's showing up at the Super Bowl. And it's always going to be us versus them. Always. Because the world is the experience of us versus them. That's what the world offers. When you come here, initially you don't know that. You just think you're coming here and it's a fairly neutral kind of experience. And then you begin to pick up little scraps of attitude and judgment about things, how you like things, don't like things. And before you know it, you've got a whole way of thinking and seeing the world that has taken a side in the battle of us versus them, which perpetuates the thinking that you're given to it. instead of dumping the whole lot down and looking at it honestly and saying, I have no clue what the hell I'm looking at here. Why am I even on this planet? What the heck is it actually about? Because what I think it's about doesn't bring me any happiness. It doesn't bring me any peace. It brings me more judgment and more bullshit. And it just goes on and on and on and on and on, taking a different form today. You know, it's like politics. This politician one day, that politician another day. It's like looking at the same statue in the park, but from a different side. Today I'm looking at the front of the statue that I think means this to me, and at the back of the statue, it's still the same statue. I can't remember exactly the story of the three blind men, and they're trying to describe what an elephant is. And one of them has the trunk, and he's like, an elephant is this long sort of serpent thing, da da da. And the other one has the tail, and he's like, no, it's very skinny. It's skinny, and at one end's all hairy and whatever. And the other one has like a leg, and it's like, no, it's like a tree, right? They're all looking at it in their mind. They're looking at what their mind, they can't see a thing, they're blind. But they're describing the same thing from their own perspective, and that's what the world is. In order to be able to see the world exactly as it is, you've got to dump every perspective about it you've got. Every single one. Because they're all rooted in judgment. Judgment keeps the game alive. Everything out there in the world that you think you want, that you think you have an idea about, can and will hurt you. There's no doubt about it. You're either getting your way or you're not getting your way. If you're getting your way, then there's other people that are trying to make you not get your way. And if you're not getting your way, then there's people telling you should be getting your own way. And it's this perpetual fight to try and establish who you think you are in relationship to everything else that seems to be going on. But the everything else that seems to be going on is constantly changing, which means you never get to rest. You never find peace. You're always in this adjustment of who you think you are based on the world going around you. That's why people move out to a cabin in the woods where they just don't have to deal with this shit anymore. Right? I tried that. I did that for like 3 or 4 years and it didn't work. I realized suddenly in my cabin it was a tent, but I realized the demons that I was running from were in my head, and then they got worse. I wasn't reacting to the world. I was reacting to my thoughts about the world. And then I started to realize, where the hell are these thoughts coming from? This is long before I had the Course in Miracles. I didn't know what was happening. I started to go crazy. I realized I was going crazy. I realized that I was trying to work out where the thoughts in my head are coming from with the thoughts in my head that I didn't know where they were coming from. I was in a no-win situation. I was like in a pharmacy store in Japan. You know, I break in at night looking for an answer to my sickness, and I'm trying to read the labels. They're all written in Japanese. I'm just guessing which one's going to save me and which one's going to kill me based on my thoughts. No, that's probably not a great analogy, but you get the idea. It's like at a certain point you've got to say, fuck it. It's like, fuck it, I can't do this. I can't go on like this, playing one side off against the other. I mean, that's what sport is. Everybody loves sport. I love sport. But if you look at the construction of what it's about, it's competitive. It's one team or one person against another team or another person. There's only going to be the one winner. And everyone's got to play their best game to get that one thing. Well, that's what the world is. The world is an experience of scarcity and lack and commodity and resource, which is getting less and less and less and less. Eventually, there's going to be, imagine 50 billion people on the planet with enough resources left for maybe 100 people on the planet. What the hell's going to happen? Everyone's just going to be garroting themselves and hanging themselves from the rafters because there's no point fighting 100 million people. What's the point? We've just nuke the place, come back again. And you don't know that you don't come back again because you don't know the meaning of life. All you've got is your own little limited perspective on it, which is why you have to have an experience of what life is. Where's Max? Oh, there he is. the 12-step program. So Max is in the 12-step program, right? I was in the 12-step program, it's a fucking excellent spiritual recovery program for alcoholics, drug addicts, whatever. But one of the steps is, having had a spiritual awakening, we attempt to carry this message to others, right? I think that's the 12th step, actually, the last
That's
one.
right. That's right.
Right? But you have to have the spiritual awakening, right? There's no point knocking on your brother's door who's addicted to alcohol and telling him, hey, let me tell you about the 12-step program because it's great for me, if you haven't had the experience, if you haven't had the awakening. Because you're just like the blind leading the blind. What are you actually offering? Just a bunch of rhetoric. Just a bunch of stuff that sounds good on paper. You know, the goal has to be, the purpose has to be experience, experience, experience. You need an experience. Right? When Jesus says, be still and know that I'm God, that's what he's talking about. You got to know it, not just theorize it in your thoughts, because then you'll theorize it again in your thoughts tomorrow with a different angle to it. What if God isn't like this? What if God is something else? And what if this is all a load of rubbish and I'm just going down another twisty rabbit hole to nowhere? You know? But once you have an experience, once you step outside your physical parameters, your body, you have an out of body, out of the world experience like that, a revelation, like read the Bible. You know, you look in the Bible and it's like all the stories in the Bible, they're sort of hard to put into context. It's like, what the hell, how does this fit into my life? But when you actually read the stories literally rather than rhetorically or figuratively, you know, like there's people in those stories that are having divine experiences of union with God and angels and all sorts of stuff. That's what you want. It's like Colin, who nearly vaped out. Did you vape out yet, Colin?
No.
Not yet. Push. Stay in the ice longer. You know, the mind is conditioned to believe that only what it sees, hears, and smells and touches is real. Right? Now, without any kind of experience to the contrary of that, I mean, you know, people say they see ghosts and all these sorts of things and other weird stuff, right? There's all of that. But without any profound sort of shift in consciousness, that's all you can believe in, because you don't have another reference. You just have these stuff called faith and hope and trust and belief, and maybe there is, maybe there isn't. And you kind of sort of jostle your way through life thinking maybe. And there's got to be a point in your life where the maybes run out, where you want to know. There's got to be a point where you've had enough of the world, you've seen what it offers, and you want something else, even though you don't know what it is you want. Right? And that's where the opening in your mind happens. That's where the opening in your consciousness happens, where you tell yourself, I want something else, and then you refuse to define what it is that you want. You just leave it open. You let the universe provide it. You let God provide it, whatever. Okay, so there's a collapse of your thought system, which is healthy, it's good. That has to happen. You've got to let it all fall into a heap, like Tina's laundry. And then there's the rebuilding. It's like a phoenix coming out of the ashes. You have to be born again. So your old life, you have to be done with it. You have to see that there's not even one grain of sand there that you want. There's nothing left. You see that everything's the same statue from a different side, the same elephant from a different perspective. At a certain point in my life, I realized I didn't know the meaning of life. And that was, a lot of people have that realization, I think. I don't know what the meaning of life is. And you kind of like flip it off because you tell yourself, oh, well, nobody knows. You find out when you die. But I didn't want to settle for that. What if I didn't like what I found out when I died? Maybe there was a way to find out while I'm still here kicking and screaming. And it wasn't long after that that all kinds of different spiritual people with different ideas started coming into my life, and I'd sort of have meetings with people, and my whole life changed. I went from being a guy that worked with sheep and cattle and driving trucks and doing manual labor and stuff to this kind of weird hippie sort of version of myself that just left all that behind and went in search of some ultimate truth. And if you had to ask me back in the days where I was marking sheep and droving cattle and stuff like that, I would have said, nah, that's not my kind of life. That's weird. But you've got to be prepared to step into that weird space where what is weird? Going along with the crowd until I just die at the end and hope that I'll find out and maybe there is a pearly gates and maybe I will get in or maybe I won't get in. What kind of game of craps is that? So the Course in Miracles always brings you back to the here and the now. It brings you back to this place. Do you want it? Do you want to know? Do you want to remember your father? Do you want an experience? And you're always saying, yes, but I've got bills to pay. I've got children to feed. I've got other stuff to do. What if I have an experience like Dave and it totally bakes my brain and I'm no good to anyone for 6 years? Well, then that'll happen too. And something else miraculous will happen to look after your kids, pay your bills. I always say Jesus pays the bills. I let go to that extent. I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills. I'm getting too old to go out and dig trenches and drive trucks anymore, like my body. Could if I had to, but there's got to be a better way, right? And that's what Jesus is saying. There's a better way. Live in faith. Learn to live in faith. And it's always going to take you right up to that 11th hour or the 12th hour, whatever that saying is. You're going to be praying and praying and praying, and then on one hand you got your prayers and saying to yourself that you want to live in faith, and on the other hand you got the situation pressing on you to pay your bills and look after your kids and whatever else. And it's like, well, do I compromise? Do I go out and do what I think I can do because God doesn't seem to be helping me, or do I just push it right to the limit? Right? It's like the story of Job. You want to learn about faith, read the story of Job. It's like just incredible. That guy gets every kind of disease and every kind of hardship and everything happening, and he still keeps his faith. And God rewards him. Exactly like when I went through my cancer and I said no to chemotherapy and everything else. God rewarded me. But I had so many doubts along that journey. I had so many doubts on that way of faith. One of my doubts was, maybe this isn't something that God can heal me from. Maybe this is out of God's above his pay grade, like how ridiculous is that? But I was trying to convince myself with that kind of thing, that kind of line of thinking. And I had to keep bringing myself back. No, that's not how faith works. Faith is its own reward, and I have to have faith, even if it means the end of my body, the end of this life. That was always going to happen at some point, so what the heck? What have I got to lose? At least if I have faith, I'll know if that works or not, if I see this through to its logical conclusion. At least I'll have information about it. And that was kind of a funny line of thought as well. But you realise you have no choice. You realise that your experience here is temporary. So what am I going to use my time for? To investigate my life, or just to make as much money as I can so I die with the most toys? Leave it all to my kids, and they'll follow in my footsteps doing the same, And it goes on and on and on and on. Same statue, different side, looking at it. At a certain point, you just say, no, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I can't do it. I want something else. I'm tired of seeing myself this way. I need an experience that shows me how God sees me. I want to see myself through the vision of Christ by seeing my brothers that way. I don't want to see one side of the football team or the other side of the football team. I don't want to see this person versus that person. I don't want to see any of those opposites. I can still enjoy the game, but it means that I'm rooting for whoever wins. It kind of takes away that sort of disappointment when your team loses, and it doesn't really mean so much when your team that you would have once chosen wins. You'd be like, oh, that's cool. That was a great game. And you actually enjoy the game for the sportsmanship of it rather than sitting there with a vested interest, completely being opposed to whatever else is going on, the losing side. I think when I watch sports now, it's like if I participate in a game or something, it's like my interest is more on the game rather than the outcome. And it makes it more alive. It's like when you watch a boxing match, and what is it lately? The guys that really belt the crap out of each other, kickboxing and whatever, like in the octagon or whatever. They wear virtually no gloves. They have these little knuckle things. It's almost bare knuckle.
MMA.
MMA, that's the one, yeah. You watch those guys go and they tell you at the start, they say this guy's done judo and this guy's done floor wrestling and this guy's done whatever, and they give you the credentials of all these guys. And like, literally, I don't know who any of these guys are. They're just random blokes that turn up to win the belt. But it's like when you watch them and if you can step back from the violence and the whatever and however you might feel about it, and you see their moves, you're like, it doesn't matter which one. It's like, this guy, man, did you see that kick? And then did you see that guy block that punch? That was some fast hands, And you kind of get involved in the game as a neutral observer, but you enjoy the hell out of it. You're not just going for one guy and missing the things from the other guy because you're not biased, right? When your mind is biased and when you've chosen a side and when you're looking at only one kind of potential outcome for any given situation, you're missing the opportunities that life is presenting on the other side of the field. Right? People these days call that, oh, I'm sabotaging my own possibilities. Well, that's how you sabotage your own possibilities in life, by seeing only one side of what life is actually presenting. Because you've got a vested interest. You've judged it to be, this is my team and those guys suck. So you don't actually ever fully connect to, and like in hindsight, someone will say, yeah, but did you see that touchdown and you'd be like, yeah, well, okay, I'll give it to you. That was a good touchdown. But you weren't there in the moment with that touchdown. You were too busy going, no, no, no. And missing the actual what was going on, right? Part of your mind was still living in hope and living in denial and living in everything else rather than being completely open-minded. That transfers to everything across the board, every relationship you find yourself in. Every single relationship in life. When you can walk around that statue and just appreciate the craftsmanship of the statue rather than trying to tell yourself it looks better from this side or this angle or whatever, you're appreciating the life and the effort and the energy that went into making that statue for whatever it is to anybody. It's a whole experience you're having rather than something that's tethered to a certain perspective because of your preferences. It's called being narrow-minded in the old book. Oh, that person's narrow-minded. They don't have an open mind to the whole picture. Right? People that are narrow-minded in life never really get very far. People that are open-minded and open to change and open to possibilities and the door of opportunity, no matter how it looks, they can walk through that door, even if it looks like they've got to swallow their pride and humble their pride and take a step in a direction that normally they wouldn't go. So when you hear the voice for Jesus speaking to you and he says, I want you to go in this direction, and it brings up fear, right? Your natural response is, I don't want to go in that direction because I'm sensing a fearful confrontation with someone or something there. Right? That's the action of mind. I don't want to walk into fear. I don't want to go into a fearful situation. But literally, this is a journey into fear. This is a confrontation with your own limitation, with your own self-judgment, with your own self-hatred and, all of that stuff, and doing it anyway. Because there's a realization, oh, I don't know the meaning of life, so what the hell am I going to be afraid of? It was all going to end at some point, so what have I got to lose? I have a beautiful friend, he's a Native American guy, and He always comes up with these little Native American sayings as he's offering in our spiritual discussions and stuff.
Unknown caller.
Hang on, I just better take this call. Yeah. Hang on a sec. Hello. It is. Oh, very, very good. Thank you. No, I sent an email to you guys yesterday. He's been in hospital and he has a broken back. So if we can postpone it, he's actually broken one of the vertebrae in his spine. So we're yep. Yep. If you could just reschedule it for me, I'm in the middle of a Zoom meeting at the moment, and then we'll get back to it. I'll call you after I'm done here. Okay. Thanks very much. Thank you. Bye. Right. So there we go. The stories of time and space, never ending. So you're always looking at it. You're always looking at both sides of the field. But unless you realize that you have preferences, and unless you realize that you're biased in one way or another, which is what racism is, it's what bigotry is, it's what all of those isms are, right? Unless you realize you got that in you, you can't deal with it, right? And it's not that it's in you in truth, because you're perfect. You're a child of God. You don't have it in you. It's just like lint. It's like something that sticks to your clothes. It's like an idea. You picked it up and you can let it go. As simply as that. It's a choice. It's a decision. And it's not until you actually let it go that you will realize how much it's been affecting your life. You can't realize it from within the framework of the effect, because you're still trying to work it out with your thoughts that don't understand, with your thoughts that don't recognize it. You've got to let it go first. You've got to take the leap of faith first, and then God catches you. When God catches you, then you understand what God is again for a second. It's like, oh shit, I see what love actually is. But all of my judgments have been hiding my love from myself as being this unconditional offering that I'm giving to my world, and it's been conditional all along. And I've been telling myself, where has love gone in my life? Maybe I'll fall in love again one day, and then I'll remember what love is, because maybe love is what I'm actually want. Does that make sense? Right. But you can't have partial love. It's all or nothing. If you want to know yourself as love, as God sees you, you've got to love unconditionally. You've got to step out of that framework and out of that box where you feel supported by people who pat you on the back for your preferences and your opinions, and just say, you know what, I'm done with this. Even if they all run away from you and leave you behind, which they will. Most people are prepared to follow the crowd. There's not many people that want to be a trailblazer and step out from the crowd and just go, you know what, I'm going to find my own way. Thanks all the same. But somewhere in your heart, somewhere in your mind, you know that's what you want to do. But it's all the witnesses are against you. It's like the Truman Show. At a certain point in the Truman Show, he knew he had to confront his fear. And everybody in his neighborhood, his wife, his boss, everybody in the game, in the thing, tried to convince him not to do that. They were his witnesses to fear. But in the end, despite that the whole town was out looking for him, he managed to escape and to confront his fears. The whole town what the hell were they going to do? The whole town's looking for him because they're worried about him. That's an unnatural response for just one person. And, you know, like, if you haven't seen the movie, watch it. It's the most incredible movie, The Truman Show. It's like, but that's literally the human condition. It's the story of the human experience. It's like you got to get in that boat, you got to sail across the sea despite all your fears and get to the other side. And when you get to the other side, there's the exit door. There's no racism in you. There's no bigotry. There's no nothing. You're a child of God, created perfect in the image of God. All of that other stuff is just a suit of clothes that you refuse to take off because you still think it gets you something in the world to have an opinion. All it gets you is more of the same. And when you're tired of it, you'll dump down that suit of clothes and just, like St. Francis, gave his dad back everything he ever gave him and walked out of the village completely naked in front of the whole village. I don't want any of this shit. You people are all crazy. I'm going to find my own way. And it takes a moment. There's a transition. There's a moment that happens. And you can call it racism. You can call it ethnic, whatever, diversity. You can give it any name you want. You can dress it up. You know how these days people are fond of giving things less confronting titles. I was on the phone on hold to somebody the other day, and some government agency, and the recording said a personal specialist, something will be with you in a minute. You know, there was like 6 things to this title. I thought, can't you just say the operator? The operator will be with you in a moment, like the person on the other end of the phone. It's such this sterile kind of thing, so that it's not offensive to people. It's like, fuck that. Let me be offended. That's part of the experience of my humanness. Let me be completely offended and offensive. I'm not here to do anyone any favors, and I'm not here to avoid anything. I remember I had to tell this guy, right? So we're doing a Course in Miracle studies down in Tilba. There's about a dozen people in the group, and the lady that has the house that's facilitating the meeting space comes to me in private before the group, and she says, this guy's going to turn up at the group today, as he did every time we had the group. And she said, I'm pretty sure he's not here for the group. He's here because he's got a crush on me, and he wants to get closer to me, and he feels like it's some sort of doorway in. And as soon as she said that, I saw it. I saw his devotion. His devotion wasn't really truly like everybody else's devotion. He had a different kind of thing about him. And I thought, oh shit, this guy's nearly 7 foot tall, and he's got hands as big as dinner plates. You know, he's a foot taller than me. And I knew I had to make the confrontation with him. And I didn't know how it's going to go down. He's a big, thick-head country lad like I was a thick-head country lad. You know, it's easier to punch somebody than to love somebody. That kind of attitude. That's how I used to be. I was an angry young man. Angry at the world, angry at myself, you know, like, get the hell out of my way. It's no wonder I became an alcoholic and a drug addict and everything. And I had to stand there in faith and tell this guy as gently and as softly and from my heart that I was aware that he wasn't in the meeting for the same reason everybody else was in the meeting. And he stood there and he looked at me. He looked down at me, face to face, stood there and looked down at me, and he went, you know what, you're right. There was a moment of honesty, and he said thanks. He shook my hand and he walked out, and I never saw him again. He never came to another meeting. But everything's energy like that. And you'll see your own integrity. You'll see your own, where it is you want to enter into God under false premises, where you want to say, I want a relationship with Jesus, but not actually willing to put in the footwork. You know? And that's okay. This whole process is a process of realizing how false I am, how much of a liar I am, how deceiving I am. Where's Zoe? Your daddy was a liar, and your great-great-grandpappy was a liar, and a liar before him. Like, everything here is tainted by the fall from grace. Everything here is tainted by the bite of the apple. You can't say 2 words that aren't that's true. The only true moment you're ever going to have in your life in this world is the moment that you actually remember your Father, your creative source. In that moment, that's ultimate truth. Until then, it's relative truth. If you enter into any moment with the realization that even your most heartfelt truth is still relative, you'll be fine. Because you're going to be there with the Holy Spirit. Otherwise, you'd be going it alone and you'd be thinking, I got this now, which is like every good junkie. Isn't that right, Max? I got this now, I'm clean, I can do it, I can manage now, thanks very much. And you don't finish the program, you walk out and 12 months later you're back. You got to get through the whole program. You got to do the whole process. As a personal journey, you already know when the process is done. You wrote the script, you know the story. You know what's in front of you. You can't kid yourself and say, all right, I don't have any issues. I don't got nothing. Because you're still in the world. You're still using a body, which means there's still a lesson to learn. Me included. Every day I fucking slap my forehead. God damn it, I missed that opportunity. I had one yesterday, a profound one. Missed an opportunity to enlighten a situation, to bring love to a situation that seemed to be mundane and boring and ordinary, and it was the same repetitive old shit. In the hospital, and I kicked myself. I got in the car and I'm like, damn, missed that one. But then you have a bit of a laugh and you forgive yourself and you move on. It's like, all right, I'll be aware of it. I'll watch it. It'll come around again, right? Because everything here comes around again. Another day, another season, another football match, another protest, another whatever. It's always the same thing going on and on and on and on. It's like Gilligan's Island. Different episode every day, but they never get off the island. At a certain point, you think to yourself, maybe I don't want to get off the island. Obviously, if I've had 500 opportunities and I've missed every one, maybe there's something in me that's really not being honest about my attempts to get off the island. And that's what you're looking for. That's the honesty you need to find. When I was a little boy, we're recording this, Tina, so you can section this bit out, because I know people have asked me to record about racism before, and I know I've mentioned it, but I'll do the whole thing now, and then you can snip it out and make it into a thing on its own. But when I was a little boy, my dad got transferred to Papua New Guinea, right, with Mobil Oil, and he had a good job up in the highlands there running the airstrip. He was in charge of all the planes coming in and going out and all the stock that would come in and out for the mining industry there and all the highlanders and stuff. And in those days, racism wasn't really like how it is today, because we'd just come out of, or not just come out of, but we'd been through World War II, right? My dad was sort of around at the end of World War II. And the Australia-Papua New Guinea alliance was strong. It was a good thing, right? So the population of Papua New Guinea is predominantly black islander population and very few white people in those days, right? So after the war, it was realised that there was a necessity for a greater infrastructure in Papua New Guinea, because it helped to defend Australian borders as well from the Japanese, etc. in the case of World War II. So industry shot ahead in New Guinea. Dad got transferred. And my brother and I went to Ella Beach Primary School. Right? We were perhaps, I think, the only two white kids in the school of about 100 kids. It was a small school. It was right on the beach. And when you're a little kid, 6 years old, you have no clue about racism. You don't know any of that stuff. You have to be taught about it, right? You don't know anything. I remember going to school, and I remember the early days of that school. We were only there for a year. Dad got transferred for a year to set up the airstrip. And the kids would come up to me, and because I had straight blonde hair, they'd pull my hair and they'd touch my skin as anybody would. And I remember touching their skin and feeling their hair. And New Guinean people have the tightest ringlets of any race on the planet, any ethnicity on the planet. It's crazy hair, right? So, and it was, I remember it there being this natural interest. It was just like kids exploring and just touching each other. And it's like, oh yeah, you're this and I'm that and whatever. And that went on for a little while. And then I'm guessing because they would have gone home to their parents and said, hey, there's 2 white kids in our school. There would have been other parents there with attitude about white people. And those kids over time started to poke and punch and pull my hair, and I was ostracized from the general population of everybody at school. And I found myself at lunchtime sitting on a bench in the playground. Everybody else would play and I was no longer included in any kind of games or anything. And I didn't know why. Simply because the color of my skin, right? I didn't know why. I was 6 years old or 7 at the most. I had no clue. Anyway, one day I come home with some bruises and stuff, and Mum pulled me out of the school. She goes, I don't know what's going on there, but we're not having you in that school anymore. You're getting into trouble. Anyway, Dad's 12 months at Papua New Guinea ran out, and we came back to Australia, lived in Melbourne, and life went on. When I got older and started to become self-aware, and Australia's a very multicultural country. We got every kind of people here, right? Everybody. You walk down the street anywhere, there's every race of people you can imagine, pretty much, right? And nobody cares. Like, everybody just gets on. And, well, some people's cares maybe, but mostly everybody gets on. And I realized when I was about 25 or so, I joined this group called the Rainbow Tribe. I left my sort of what I would call a redneck kind of working life behind, and I started to become a bit of a hippie, and I wanted to find out about life. I wanted to find out about Buddha and Krishna and Jesus and figure out what it is that half the world gets into. And it started to bring stuff up in me, and I realized that I had a feeling about if I would walk down the street and black people was around, that it would make me feel a certain way. I'd start to feel somewhat threatened. And I didn't remember my schooling, right? I didn't remember it at all. And it was unnatural. It felt unnatural. And I would tell myself, what the hell's going on? I'm not a racist person. I don't have any kind of attitude about anybody. Where is this coming from, right? What's all this stuff coming up? And it got to the point where I would duck into a store or cross the street so I didn't have to feel things, right? So I didn't have to feel a certain way. And one day I realized how ridiculous it was. It just became intolerable. And I was at this rainbow gathering, and it was my turn to go and pump fresh water from the creek. And I walked up this hillside, up this little path, and the guy whose turn it was to pump before me was coming down the other way. And he was like an African guy or somebody, very, very dark skin. And there was no way I could avoid him on the path. And this feeling came up in me of fear, right? It came up, this fear, this terror. And I knew I had to confront it. And I stopped him on the path coming down. I said, excuse me, brother. I said, this might sound very strange, but I need to give you a big hug. And he said, of course. He said, of course. And we stood there on the path together for like 10 seconds having this hug, and it was fucking beautiful. And then I went and did my water pumping. Nothing seemed to happen. I went and did my water pumping up at the thing, pumped the water for the tank for the gathering. And then when I came back down, the girl that I was seeing and a bunch of people were sitting in a circle in the middle of the bush, and I went and sat with them. And as soon as I sat down, I started crying. I started crying, this deep, from my heart, from my guts, everything, these tears. It wouldn't stop for nearly 2 hours. I cried. And I remembered my time in school in New Guinea, and the whole thing came up. It came up and it was healed in that moment. It came up because I wanted to confront it. I wanted it done. I wanted it out of me. It didn't make sense and I didn't like it. And people come over and they put their hand on my back. I'm sitting there crying, and putting their hand on my back and everything. And ever since then, I haven't had that feeling. It's gone. Like, it's literally gone. Forgiveness cleaned that all away. My willingness to be healed cleaned that all away. Right? Same with when I had cancer. I chose it, and I chose to let go of it. Everything is a decision in the mind. But when you come to this world, you get a full package. You get a full story of every kind of diametrically opposed possibility for things. You get all the isms, you get all the, like, it's not just the 7 deadly sins. If you're honest, there's a bit of everything in everybody, because we are all one. On earth as it is in heaven, as above, so below. And it's nothing to judge yourself about. It's just something, it's the opportunity for healing. If you judge yourself for it, then it just compounds the problem. It makes it worse. It perpetuates it. But if you don't realize the problem, if you don't acknowledge the problem, you can't do anything about it. It sits there in the background playing out. So every time you come around that same sort of situation, it makes you feel the same sort of way again. Tina and I were talking just before the Zoom started about they're taking down the end racism sign or something at the Super Bowl, or some, whatever the banner, or something. Is it a banner? And it's like, to me, that's the best thing ever. That's the best thing ever. Because you only got to have that word up there in people's faces, and it perpetuates it. All of a sudden, everybody's reminded what racism is, and it brings it up again. At a certain point, you just got to let it go. You just got to let it go, and make that decision and cross that threshold. The only thing that perpetuates racism is keeping on talking about it, keeping on explaining it, keeping on going through the whole thing of avoiding it and trying to fix it. You can't fix it. You just got to let it go. The purpose of the world is to continue to offer the problems that it presents. It's like, all right, well, I want a new purpose. My purpose is love. My purpose is forgiveness. My purpose is the release of all of my attachments to the world, even if they're backwards attachments, negative attachments. Because people can love being sick. People can love being judgmental. People can love all of that stuff, as well as hate it. You got to have both sides, the yin and the yang. I don't want the yin and I don't want the yang either. I just want to see the Christ in my brother. This whole world, this whole sick game of death, it's already been atoned for by Jesus. All I got to do is accept that. That's it, my one job, my one thing. When I accept that, I'll experience what life actually is. I'll experience spiritual truth as it is, not what I think it is. Lesson 10 in Course in Miracles. My thoughts do not mean anything. If you don't know the meaning of life, if you can't tell yourself what the meaning of life is and be completely satisfied with that, then you're still looking at your own thoughts. I don't want my thoughts. I want God to tell me the meaning of life. I want Jesus to tell me the meaning of life directly, to my face, in my mind, whatever. I'm tired of trying to work it all out for myself. In Buddhism, it's like surrender. There's this total point of surrender where you just can't go on anymore. You reach a point. It's like when people become suicidal. There's a certain point where becoming suicidal and committing suicide, it's two separate things. I always know when someone says, I feel suicidal, well, they're not really suicidal. They're just having feelings, and their mind is telling them that's the option. But if you listen to what Lesson 10 says, don't listen to my thoughts. What am I actually feeling? I'm feeling an energy. I'm feeling an anxiety. I'm feeling a thing, and I want to call it depression. I want to call it anxiety. I want to call it hopelessness. I want to call it emptiness. But if I don't call it anything, what is it? It's God. I'm feeling the stirring of God's strength in me. My ego is going to tell me it doesn't like that. I don't like this feeling. What is it? I can't control it. I feel like I'm going out of control. I'm going crazy. I feel like all sorts of stuff. Good. Let that happen. Hey, Alice. You can't control it. The whole reason anyone anywhere in the world has any kind of problem anytime is because they're trying to control a narrative, trying to control something, have an opinion or a judgment. If you could live your life without judgment, without any opinion, just as an observer, I'm just passing through in the world but not of it, you'd be completely happy all the time. Isn't that right, Alice? I've trained myself to judge. I've trained myself to decide against people, situations, and things. And I can just as easily train myself not to do that. And all of the things that are reminding me that I've judged and that my judgments were once worthy, I don't need those things anymore. I don't need to be told to end racism. I don't need to be told to end bigotry. The need to be told of it is the actual denial of actually getting on and doing it. I'm either about my Father's business, or I'm still talking about it. If I'm still talking about it, I'm not about it. Am I a racist? Of course I'm a racist. Am I a bigot? Of course I'm a bigot. I'm one with everything in the world. If I react to it, it's mine. If I have a reaction to it, I've got to deal with it, because where am I reacting? In my own mind. That's where I'm reacting, in my thoughts. Do I enjoy having those thoughts in my head? Hell no. Or maybe I do. Maybe I am completely batshit crazy and I enjoy it. But at a certain point, you realize you don't enjoy it. You don't want it anymore. You're done with this journey, this Disneyland of time and space. You've gone on all the rides. You've eaten all the crappy food. You've bought all the souvenir bags, and you know they're full of rubbish. There's nothing in there. Now what? Get out of Disneyland. You don't go around putting up signs that says get out of Disneyland. You just get out of Disneyland. Does that make sense?
No. Dave, can I just ask something?
Yeah.
So please tell me the difference between transcendence and transformation in situations like this. I know you said it before,
Yep.
but can you? Yeah.
All right. So transformation is realizing the personal point of responsibility that you have for your own healing, right? And being about it, which is the letting go. Okay?
Okay.
It's the actual letting go. Right? You know that Bob Newhart clip where
Yes, I do, but I can't
Right?
do that. But
No. Exactly, Bob Newhart. You ready? Stop it.
yeah.
Tina, you're already in that place.
Yes.
You're not
So how do-
transcending anything. You're not transcending this, right? Now give it to God. Give it to God. Take a breath. See if you can step back from all that, Tina. You ready?
Oh God, I swear.
I know. It's right there. You're right there with it. You make the decision.
Oh fuck.
Let me tell you something, right? And you can say I'm right or wrong, right? When you walk down the street and somebody says something to you like, get out of the way, fatty, or they give you a little insult, right? A little insult, you can just go, and brush it off. Most of the time, it's water off a duck's back. You don't care. If that person is a friend of yours or someone that you work with or whatever, it may have more emotional impact. If the insult comes from a long generational build-up and a national awareness, which is what you're dealing with, right? A whole thing. You've got a whole package. It's going to be harder to let go. It's going to be harder for you to just say, that doesn't worry me, I'll let that go. Right?
And that's what I feel like you're asking me to do. And that's what I feel like you're asking me to do. That's what I feel like you're asking me to do. It's no big deal.
Ready? Now let
Yeah.
it go. Let it go.
Oh, fuck.
Let it go.
That's easy for the white guy to say. That's easy for the white guy to
Right.
say. That's easy for the white guy to say. That's easy for the white guy to say.
Right. What do you want me to say? Hang on to it. Just
No.
hold on to it. Hold on to it. That's your choice. You either want to hold on to it or you want to let it go. It's your decision, not mine. It's your decision. It's your journey to God.
I need help. I need help. I can't.
Right. Exactly. Now, where's the help? Where is the help? Exactly. Where's gone? Like when you go to AA, right? The admission that you need help is the hardest step to take. It's the first step. You can look at the problem forever. You can tell yourself you're probably an alcoholic, you're an alcoholic, whatever. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter what the situation is. Finally, you get to the point you need help. That's your first step in letting go. And you just took it, so that's good. Now, the medium of miracles is prayer. If I was you, I would go in your room, or you were in your room, but I would go pray. Father, I need help. I need a miracle. And just stay there. It's like when Ted bawled me out for being overly sexual with women at the healing center. I didn't know what I was doing. Right? I was just being me in a thing. And then he absolutely came and tore a strip off me one day. He said, "What are you doing? You're treating this like your own personal bloody harem, this place." And it was hard not to. It brought up all of my stuff. Right? And he tore a strip off me in front of Alice. You remember that? No, you weren't there that day. He tore a strip off me in front of everybody out the back having lunch, like 50 people sitting under the trees there. And everybody stopped eating their lunch to watch what was going on while Ted ripped into me about my behaviour. I had to go and pray. I went straight to my room. He goes, "Where are you going?" He said, he got to the end of his thing, and I said, I looked at him and I said, "Is that it? You done?" And he said, "Yep." And then I walked away and he goes, "Where are you going?" I said, "I've got to go pray." And that was the end of it. I realised he was right. There's a point where we're putting it off and pretending that it wasn't and all of that stuff, it didn't wash anymore. You know, there was a time you have to call a spade, and it's like the same thing with racism, the same thing with alcoholism, the same thing with everything I've been through in my life with these spiritual principles. There's a point where you confront it and you go, "This is it. This is the point. This is ground zero. This is where I do the work." Until then, you're just dancing around trying to avoid the issue. You know it's there, you're trying to avoid it. You know it's there, you're trying to avoid it. Eventually, you go to prayer. Prayer is all you've got. I need help. Like Tina just said, I need help. And that's been coming up for her a long time. When you have an experience outside of this world, you don't get to take this body and this skin with you. It's a pure spiritual experience, and you realize that everybody doesn't have a body and a skin, the same as you don't. And you realize that we are not our body and we are not the skin. And then that changes everything. You can't see things the same way ever again. Your mind will try to. Your mind, your ego will try to tell you that things are the way that you think they are, but they're not, because you've had an experience and you know that it's not. You can't do nothing about that. When it's your time to awaken, it's your time to awaken. All of you guys sitting watching this video and in this Zoom meeting, there's something in you that must be stirring. There's something in you that has drawn you here that, you know, I used to sit with Ted, like me and Alice. Alice was in the same place. We'd sit there for hours and hours a day and listen to him talk, and he could talk. He could go on for hours. And sometimes I'd listen for 3 hours and I might hear 2 words. 2 words might actually get in. But those 2 words did more to change my way of seeing myself and seeing the world than 3 hours worth of sitting there, you know, absorbing nothing. So I would sit there. I'd sit there every day, even if I only heard 2 words, because I realized if I walked back out that door into the world without those 2 words, that the world could still affect me, that I was still vulnerable, that I was still empty. It was valuable to me. Every word in the Course in Miracles was valuable to me, and I knew it was going to bring me into a place of total pain every time, total confrontation with my own bullshit emotions. But you don't know your own shadow. You know, it's impossible to know your own shadow. You find it in relationships. It shows up in other people, in other situations. That's why relationships are learning tools. Relationships are useful. Relationships are incredibly helpful. You get into a relationship with somebody, and then the next thing you know, there's a honeymoon period. It's all great. Everything's perfect, and the other person can't put a foot wrong. And after a while, familiarity breeds contempt, and you start to see in that other person, oh, well, that annoys me. And then the show really begins, you know, and you realize, you know, you get to the stage, my grandparents, they used to bicker like bloody cats and dogs all day, every day. All they had was shouting at each other and calling each other names, silly old cow, and, you know, all of this sort of stuff. I'm sure there was a sense of love there somewhere, but, you know, to what end? You got to make the confrontation with your own denial. You got to make it. You got to go to that place within you, in your heart and your mind. You got to do it totally and get in touch with how it feels. Some of the biggest catalysts I've had for healing in my life have been, I remember when my girlfriend left me, my first ever girlfriend. I was so excited about her because I was 16 or 17, never had a girlfriend before. We went out for 2 years. Then all of a sudden some other guy came along and she was gone. And there was this huge hole. And I didn't know how to deal with it. Started drinking. Same thing happened with the next girlfriend. Some other guy didn't come along. She just decided, no, not for her. Huge hole, kept opening up. And I knew it wasn't about the girlfriend. I knew it was this hole. I knew it was this emptiness I had inside, and I kept putting it off, trying to fill it up with other things. This emptiness, maybe if I work hard, I'll forget about it. Maybe if I drink enough, I'll forget about this emptiness. My friend Josie used to call it the God hole. The only thing that can fill that hole is God. Unconditional love. It's the one piece of the human puzzle that's missing. You know, and I try to fill it up out in the world. People, possessions, prestige, whatever. Giving a damn about how other people saw me, all of that kind of thing. Thinking that that was somehow important. Even at work. You know, if I didn't work as hard as the other guys, I didn't want to be the weak link on the chain. You know, you're in the shearing shed and the shearers are busting their backs and they got 200, 220, 30 sheep a day sometimes coming through, and I'm on the skirting tables doing the fleece. And it's like, you got to keep up. And if you're the weak link in the chain, ooh. And so you put on this bravado, you put on this false face, telling yourself you can do it, you can keep up with everybody, you're just as good as anyone else, rather than admitting, no, I'm not. Can't do this. This isn't my thing. I know several times in my life I've told myself I'm going to stop trying to fit in. Honest, this doesn't feel right for me. You know, I quit. And you do that, and you do that, and you do that. Trying to fill up that emptiness. Jesus says, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, which is within you, and then all else will come to you. Then. But you get born into this world, you get sidetracked into education, you get put in a job, and your tax file number, blah, blah, blah. When the hell does anyone ever get time to seek ye first the kingdom of heaven? When does that, you know, that's not in the education. Hey, Anna. I look at guys like Zoe there, who's only young, and Colin, where's Colin gone? Down there, only young. You guys are so blessed. The world hasn't completely trodden you under its boot yet, and you haven't, like, you don't know. You look at somebody there like Gay, right, and Kevin, all these older guys that are in here, and they've seen so many sunsets and so many disappointments and so much going on. And I know young people always think, and just generalizing here, but young people always think that the world owes them a favor and that they're the most important person in the room, and in a sense you are. But it's not until you realize how hard the world can be. You know, it's like Tina says, easy for the white guy to say. Well, the emotional load for the white guy is the same as the emotional load for the coloured guy. It's exactly the same. Everybody comes in here with 10 pounds of problems and it experiences through different ways. Some people seem to be privileged, born with the silver spoon in their mouth like the king and whatever, and I tell myself, I wouldn't like that life. That's a terrible life. You don't actually experience life. And then I look at all the shit I've been through in my life and think, well, maybe it wouldn't be so bad. What if I didn't have to struggle and suffer and go to work every day and bust my back to earn $1 to pay stupid bills, to drive this crappy shitbox car that I own? You know? I think it was the Dalai Lama that put that so beautifully, and he said people wake up every morning, go to a job they hate for money that's not enough, to pay for bills they don't really want, to live in an apartment close enough to work that keeps them from their dreams. If I was true about anything, I'd go and live on a tropical island and drink fancy drinks with a little umbrella in it all day on a deck chair and look out at the ocean and just think to myself, this is so perfect. This is the perfect life. This is what I really want. Why don't I go do it? Because it's the same thing as being in a prison cell. It's the same thing as being anywhere else. Because the problem isn't out there in the world and the solution isn't out there in the world. It's in your mind. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and then all else will come to you. When you get to 30 years old, Colin, you're going to look back and you're going to be glad you put in this work. Because the world, the whole time you're here, the world is not going to stop pressing on you for obligations and bills and whatever. And for you to be able to develop a constructive attitude towards that in your early years, it's going to help you so much. To build your faith in your early years, it's going to help you through everything. Same with you, Zoe. I mean, in a certain regard, this is the shit they should be teaching kids in school. How to manage their emotional state, how to find peace, how to push the limit to the edge of their threshold with any situation and ask for help. There is a God. It's a fact. God is a fact. God is love. Unconditional love. But you've got to invite God into your heart. You got free will. You're here as a use of free will that is miscreative. You're here to experience separation from God. It's like, oh, that's why everything's so shit. I'm in an experience of separation from God. And you'll have many incarnations. You'll be the rich person, the poor person, the black person, the white person. You'll be the saint or the prostitute. Again and again and again. Whether you believe in that or not doesn't matter. You will. I've experienced it for myself, and I know that it's true, as much as I know that sitting here talking now seems to be true, seems to be a real thing. Jesus says in the Course, reincarnation is not real in any regard, right? But the world is not real either, but yet we still seem to find ourselves here, in this world or in another world. And when he says, what's 10,000 years, for they have come? Why would he say what's 10? I'm not going to live for 10,000 years. He must be talking about me being here for 10,000 years in other lifetimes, in other experiences of myself. It's the only way I can make sense of it. Plus, with what's happened to me, it's the only way I can make sense of it. And I did think I was going crazy. For a long time. I did think I was losing my mind for a long time. Because I started to see behind the curtain, behind the veil, things weren't the way I thought they were. I had an experience of union with God. I had an experience of being where my teacher Ted is now. And other experiences that weren't nothing to do with this world. And it had nothing to do with drugs. It had nothing to do with mind altering anything. It was natural. It just happened because I was called. I heard a voice from the sky. I got told what to do and I did it. And then boom, here we are today. Like it or leave it, and doesn't, like what do you do with that? Jesus says that the road to heaven is hard and steep. And there are few who are found on that path. But the road to purgatory is wide and the gates are wide open. And everybody goes in there. Because everybody wants the easy way. There is no easy way. This is a journey into fear. This is where you make the confrontation. And eventually you get to the point where you're in the confrontation and you ask for help. Until then, you're just looking at it. And it doesn't matter what context you're looking at it in. Look at your life. Look at your own individual life. What is the things that upsets me? Let me confront that. Not out there in the world, because that will only perpetuate it. An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, says Gandhi. But let me confront it in me. Let me confront it where it really is, in my thoughts, living rent-free in my head, driving me crazy every day. I don't want it there. I don't want it there. And that's where you draw your circle. You finally draw your circle. Now, I've had many times where I've told myself I want to be healed of something and nothing's happened. Many times. I don't want this. I want healing, Father. I want healing. God, heal me of this. Heal me of this. And nothing happens. It's because I haven't gotten to the very bottom of that well. I haven't gotten to the bottom of the cup and cleaned it all out. There's still a little scrap, still a little bit of possibility, and still a little bit of anger, still a little bit of whatever. You got to give the whole thing to God, the whole thing. You got to step away from it and let God sort it out, the whole thing. If there's still a back door, if there's still a hope, or if there's still anything, forget it. That's not it. You're not there yet. It's kind of funny when you see it, because like Jesus says, there'll be wailing and gnashing of teeth and wailing. There will be. Isn't that right, Carrie? Take him at his word. There will be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Ramana Maharshi once said that enlightenment is like trying to squeeze an elephant into a matchbox. Trying to squeeze an elephant into a matchbox. You're literally going back through the same energetic portal that you came into this world through. It's going to feel like you're being sucked down a plug hole. Emotionally, it'll feel like you're losing your mind. It'll feel like you're going absolutely crazy. That's how you know you're on the right track. Hopefully, you've got some good mind training behind you, and you can step back from it and trust and enjoy the ride. Isn't that right, Anna? One of the things about being an alcoholic, and like my sponsor, Willem, he was this Dutch guy, he's not with us anymore, he's left the continuum, but Willem was hard as nails. He was a really hard, sort of old school guy. He wouldn't let me get away with anything because he loved me. He could see I was struggling with alcoholism. He could see it was ruining my life. He was given to me as my sponsor. His skin was like yellow from jaundice and hepatitis. His breath smelt like rotting flesh, like body organs from inside him. He was like literally dead man walking. And he was determined to use every last breath of his life to help others. And he was in my face the whole time. And you didn't really want Willem in your face, did you, Alice? Because like his breath was so bad. His breath was just awful. And his wife, Margot, she was another one. She was hard as nails. She was so confronting and just like in your face. And they would call out my bullshit again and again and again. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to Willem and Margot and all those guys that just refused to compromise and didn't let me off the hook. You're doing it to yourself, Dave. You're doing it to yourself. I could hear it. I could get a sense of it, but it didn't actually hit home until it hit home. Natasha, can you read lesson 1, please? The full lesson.
Yep, just finding it. Number 1.
Dana, just listen.
Nothing I see in this room, on this street, from this window in this place means anything.
Right, stop. Now, that's not just when you're reading the lesson, that's all the time. That's with every breath, with every witness, with everything you look at. It doesn't mean anything. It's the first lesson of the mind training. The very first one. If you can get that one lesson, it doesn't mean anything. Because lesson 2 is going to say, I've given what I see all the meaning it has for me. My mind is doing this to me because I'm listening to that voice in my head that tells me what things are and how I think things should be. And it doesn't actually know any answers. Read lesson 2. Stop looking for the answers where there isn't any.
I have given everything I see in this room, on this street, from this window, in this place, all the meaning that it has for me.
Right. Now, if I've given everything I see all the meaning it has for me, who am I going to point the finger at? Who am I going to blame for the way I am, for how I feel? If I've given it all the meaning it has for me. That's Jesus telling me that. He's like sick of waiting for me. He's like, here, look, I'll just give you these lessons. Surely you can't be that stupid. Here's 365 lessons. You're doing this to yourself. You're doing this to yourself. And that's not even the white guy saying that. That's Jesus saying that. Jesus was a black guy, a brown guy, whatever. He would tell you he's not any of that. He would tell you he's the Son of God. He's the Christ, along with you. And he would share that truth with you. What do we do with it? Easy for the white guy to say. That's not what Jesus is saying. Right? I've given it all the meaning it has. Me. Finger on the nose and keep it there. As soon as you take that finger off your nose, you're screwed. Right? Now, where is my world when I take responsibility for it? It's in my mind.
Thank you.
I know the Catholic Church would like us to believe that Jesus was a white guy with blue eyes and blonde hair, but I think we know better than that.
Oh, gosh.
Take a breath. You got to want to be your brother's keeper. You got to want to be a brother in the first place. You got to want to look out into the world and go, I am a brother to everybody, and that's all I want. That's all I want to see it. Mm-hmm. If I'm shining that light, if I'm holding that candle, I don't care what other people say. Why would I? Other people's going to come up to me. Where'd you get that light? Where'd you get that candle? I want one. You say, here, let me light your candle with my candle. There's some light. Now we both share the light. It's not about our stories. It's about the light. It's not about our history. It's about the light. Right here and right now. There is no such thing as the past. In my thoughts, I can tell myself there is. Yeah, but this happened 200 years ago. This happened 1,000 years ago. And because this happened 1,000 years ago, this justifies how I feel today. What the hell? What kind of nutty kind of stuff is that? Don't you just want to be happy? Wouldn't you rather be happy than right? You know, that's what Jesus is asking. You just want to be happy. Let all that shit go. Just let it go. Realize it's there. Let it go.
Mm.
Doing the work is what the letting go is. I'm accepting atonement for myself because I see that I've got a glitch. I see that I've got an ism. I see that I've got a personal shortcoming, and I've reached a point where I'm tired of it. I've reached a point where I'm done with it. And that'll be a beautiful place. I've never met anyone who's laid down the burden of their judgments, laid down the burden of their grievances, and hasn't felt better for it. I've never met anyone who goes back to pick up a grievance who's truly forgiven it. Because they've reached a place where they're grateful for the person that's played the part of the attacker or the oppressor or the whatever. It's like, wow, thanks for playing that part for me. I could be stuck here for another 100,000 years doing this shit in one way or another if you hadn't have provoked me or pushed me or played that part to get me to look at myself. All those girlfriends that left me and the relationships I was in that all just didn't work and I gave up. Like, thanks for doing that. Thanks for cheating on me. Thanks for all that stuff, because it made me look in the mirror at myself. It'd be easy to blame them. Oh, yeah, two-timing whore. It's easy to play that game. It's harder to take responsibility for the game that you're playing with yourself, though. But that's where change happens. That's where something changes. Finally, something changes. And you play the game, you play the game, you play the game until finally you're just like, no, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm going to ask for help. And I'm going to mean it now because I'm at the bottom. I just can't. Something's got to change and it's got to be me. I can't go on. How does that look for each person? I don't know. How do you know when you're at the final threshold of any given situation? I don't know. But you'll know it when you get there. Because your prayer, you'll get up from your prayers and you'll be like, whoa, that was the most honest thing I've ever bloody done in my life, that prayer. I felt that. That was a true prayer. So many times I've gotten up from my prayers and I've thought, nah, I could have done better. I could have gone deeper. That was just lip service. There wasn't much integrity in that prayer. You know, you go back, you draw your circle. So I want to mean it. I want to feel it in my heart. When I ask for this, it's got to be because there's nothing left to ask for but healing. And every situation will come around again and again, Colin. Isn't that right? Swimming in the ice. Eventually, swimming in the ice water is going to push you to a point where you don't want to do it anymore. It'll bring up resistance. The ice water and the swimming is just the catalyst for bringing that up. You're young. You haven't had a whole stream of pointless jobs and meaningless relationships and stuff yet. So ice water is your thing. You'll get to the same point. You'll have this movement in your consciousness. You'll have this thing where, no, I can't do this anymore. And it's not that you can't do the physical act of swimming in the ice, but it's like you can't do it and at the same time doing it, not wanting to do it. Right? Everyone who's ever confronted any difficult situation has gone beyond the limit of their fears, gone beyond the limit of their resistance, and they've done it. Those are the people that climb to Mount Everest. Those are the people that pave the way for others. That bit that we read right at the very beginning about every thought you have makes up some aspect of the world you see. Every thought you have makes up some aspect of the world you see. Well, take it as a personal challenge. Look at the world you see. What don't you like about it? What is it that upsets you? What triggers you? And be honest about it. Be more on it. Don't try to look away. You know, when people watch the news or stuff and somebody got knocked down on a crossing or whatever, you look away, oh, I don't want to see that. Don't look away. That's what the world is. Pain, suffering, and death, says the Buddha. The world, life is pain. Life is suffering. I'm not going to second guess Buddha. Look at it. Let it affect you. Let it affect you. Let it take you to that place, to that depth where you need to go so you can heal it. And you may have to approach that threshold many times. You may turn away and come back again later. But you let yourself go there. You know the direction. You know where it is. You know what you've got to heal. You know what you've got to release. I just want peace, and this shit keeps coming around again. And it always has a threshold, because everything in time and space has a limit, and you are limitless. There is nothing in you that is amiss. There is nothing in you that actually needs healing. Only the belief that thinks that there is. And you can just let it go. But to let it go, you've got to be right there where it actually is. You've got to confront it. You've got to get to the bottom. Turn over every rock. Look behind every curtain. All those hidden agendas, secret hates, the things you won't admit to yourself. It's like it's a really nasty psychology. Really horrible. Really horrible. But it's better to do the work and get it out than to live with it your whole life and not be aware of how it's ruining your experience, ruining your life. People call it self-sabotage, as if it's some kind of like, oh, see that I'm sabotaging, and you kind of fob it off. You know, you fob it off. It's like, holy shit. What are the opportunities that could have opened up before me if I hadn't just been so compromising? If I hadn't just, you've got to really be disciplined and devoted. You've got to refuse to let yourself off the hook. Because you got yourself into this mess and you get yourself out. Meg, you good? Andre, you good?
Good.
Good. Noah, good?
Yeah. Thinking how to confront my fears totally. I'm thinking that I'm scared of fully
Right.
going
That's
back
okay.
to God.
That's okay. Becoming aware that you have fear in you is the first step. Right? Being aware that you're fearful is the first step. How to confront it, how to get past that fear and how to let it go, that's part of the journey. That's where this heads into.
Okay.
There was a time for me where I confronted my fears on the physical plane. I was afraid of heights, so I went and booked a parachute jump. Jumped out of an aeroplane from 10,000 feet to confront my fear of heights.
Wow.
You know? After a while, I ran out of things to confront on the physical plane, and, some years went past and I realized my demons were in my head. I wasn't afraid of heights. I was afraid of me. I was afraid of loving myself unconditionally. Of being real, whatever that is. And it's in the moment. And you'll know when you're, like everybody knows. A lot of people I used to have terrible social anxiety. There was a time in my life I could never have sat here in front of a computer with a lot of people looking at me, because I would have felt completely inadequate to do whatever. I couldn't even have a conversation with a girl. If we didn't get to the sex part real quick, I was going to run out of stuff to say, and then, You could always fill up time afterwards having a cigarette or something. I didn't know the meaning of life. I didn't know why I was here. Everything was an adjustment, always trying to fill in the blank, always trying to find something to do instead of be still and know that I'm God. Be still, be still. Let it happen.
Thank you. You're the one person that I listen and I don't know, it's just so good because it feels real that you have to go through for all that fear you have and all the religion I went through. It's like only showing the good part, and then I'm clinging only to that part. Like I'm safe in there, but inside I know that you can't be safe. You have to go from I don't know what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You already know because you can feel it. Everybody knows. Everybody feels it within themselves that there's more to life. You know. Initially, you try to fob that off and just get on with life. Don't ask too many questions. But one of my mates, Jamie was his name. He was best sheep shearer I ever met. Like, this guy could do 230 a day, 230 sheep a day easily, right? And and still have a laugh and whatever. He wasn't exhausted at the end of the day. And he was one of the most philosophical guys I ever met, right? He wasn't like Course in Miracles or anything like that. But when he was shearing the sheep, there's nothing to do. You're bent over and the next one comes and the next one comes and the next one comes. He was somewhere else. He was somewhere else in his mind, We'd have smoker and we'd have lunch and we'd have whatever. And he would always have these, he was into Jesus, right? He was a total Jesus man, but he would always have these incredible conversations. When I was working at Long Island, I used to work as a labourer and a gardener. And the guy that was the garbage collector there drove the little garbage truck. His name was Richard. He gave me my first Bible, actually. We'd go up to the smoko shed and the lunch shed, and everybody would be talking about what they did last night and whatever. And me and Richard would sit there and Richard would talk about the Bible, and he'd tell me stuff. And it'd be like, somewhere I knew what he was talking about. Somewhere I knew. But there was part of me that still wanted to not be too weird about it because the other guys were like, they weren't interested. And I wanted to still try to fit in, But somehow Richard was more important. And then when he left, he quit his job. When he left his job, I was kind of like, shit, this is the only guy that I know in this whole shed. There's about a dozen guys that all labourers, electricians and whatever. This is the only guy I know that has any kind of perspective on something other than everyday life. And when he left, I really missed him. I missed our conversations, because there was something in me that was yearning for more out of life, that was yearning for an answer. I didn't know it then. It was just kind of like this curiosity and I couldn't quelch it, But when he left, he gave me the Good News Bible and he said, here, read the book of Jeremiah to start with. And I did. And man, I don't know, like where does the journey begin and where does it end? I mean, but everybody you meet is a step along the way. Like for you, Noah, I'm a step along the way. But you're going to meet other people that are going to take this further. You're going to have your own everything.
Okay.
And your journey will just continue to unfold. Same for you, Zoe, Colin, Carl, Dana, Malik, Carrie. And it's not that you're really afraid to make decisions, but you're always looking for the decision that seems to be the safe one or the best one that's going to get you the most out of a situation. Because everything else seems too difficult, Oh no, that seems like hard work. That seems like it's the wrong way. But you've got to go into the fear. You've got to go into the resistance. You've got to realize it's there and how deep it goes and get to the bottom of it and give it over. Give it to God. and you have the Holy Spirit to go with you to do that.
I'm
That's why you got to
finding
yeah.
I'm finding myself avoiding work for quite some time. I'm studying now, but I got pushed to work, and I'm just don't want to work, as you could say, hard and boring job, like
Right.
almost
I had plenty
everyone.
of them.
Yeah, I had them too before, but now I just, when everything is pointless, then you just don't want to do it anymore.
Right. But don't stop there. Everything is pointless, right?
Yeah,
If you just die at the end of it without any answers, what's the point of your whole life,
nothing.
right? Now,
Yeah.
when you realize that your life actually does have a purpose, it doesn't matter what job you do, right?
Hmm.
It's like you can be, what was that movie, Tina? And you said, like, what's his name in the petrol station? I forget the name of that movie, but
Peaceful warrior.
Peaceful Warrior, right? This guy has all the spiritual truth and all the spiritual knowledge in the world, and he just goes and gets a job at a petrol station. He could be anything. He could go anywhere. Right? He could do anything with his knowledge because he knows the power of his own mind to manifest his experience and to engage in relationships in a way that only brings positive outcomes. Right? He's literally a master of the mind. But what does he do? He goes and works in a petrol station because he can just be himself there. He's no longer got any battles to fight. He's no longer got anything to prove. Any job is as good as any other job. My teacher's teacher used to say, get yourself a simple job, pay your bills, make sure you got enough food, and that's it. Right? The original dear one. Get yourself a simple job. Keep life simple. I understand the idea that I don't want to work, like I've just finished work after 23 years in the same job, and initially I loved it. It was great. But it's like anything, familiarity breeds contempt, and eventually you start looking around and maybe I should try something else.
Yes.
Then my mother passed away, and my dad, she was his carer, and here I am sitting their house until it sells, and then I'm going back to work. And I actually applied for a job the other day driving a truck. Driving a truck. But I don't care if I get it or I don't get it. It's just I'm just opening my mind to the possibility of another change. Just keep things open. Just whatever it's meant to look like, it'll look like. I'll just say yes to whatever comes along. Yes, yes, yes. Knowing that I can't say yes and it's not perfect. It's always going to lead me into the next opportunity for both healing and to offer of myself whatever it is that I'm meant to be putting into a situation. It's funny because you talk to a bunch of spiritual people and they all want to do jobs like with yoga and massage and all the all the spiritual sorts of jobs. But it's like nobody wants to work for IBM.
Yes.
Nobody wants to build houses. It's like, what the heck? Where does that idea come in? It's just more spiritual ego. If your happiness and your fulfillment depends on the job you have, you'll never be happy and fulfilled. You've got to find it within yourself first. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. Then you won't care what job you do. When we went up to me and where's Alice? Who was it, Alice? Was it you? Came up and we went to Early Beach in the yellow van and Alice, you awake? I think she's nodded off. Oh. Who was it when we went up to Early? Was it you, me and Gina?
No. I did visit you once when I was with my husband, and I came to visit you once. But that was a long time ago, yeah.
I remember you being up there. But when we got there, we were all on the unemployment benefit, right? Because we were traveling around a lot. We were all on the unemployment benefit for a while. And I was just getting casual work where I could. And so we pulled up at the caravan park because we had nowhere to stay with the van, three of us. And eventually we ran out of money, and the two girls decided to go back to Byron Bay, and I stayed. I thought, no, I've got to stay because I feel like there's something here I need to do. There's something here that's for me. And I ended up getting a job cleaning toilets, right? Cleaning toilets. It's like me with a freaking enlightened mind, with a mind that knows the truth of the universe, and I'm cleaning toilets. And I cleaned the women's and the men's in the caravan park. The women's were disgusting, right? There was like 12 cubicles, showers and everything. Well, because the women take all the little kids in there and they can't piss in the pot and they shit all over the place. They get it all wrong, you know, so that's always dirtier than the men's. But I would be in there, and at first I was grateful to have a job because I had no money and no way to feed myself. I was grateful to have the job. Shit, I'm cleaning toilets, but at least I got money coming in. I'm back on my feet again. And then after a very short time, it started to push all my buttons. I hated the job. You go into one of the stalls and there's a big turd someone hasn't flushed away, or there's women's products on the floor. Like, people on holidays are just animals, you know, and there's kids have been pissing all over the seat, and you got to clean it. You got to clean it, right? And it got worse. Every day it got worse. Every day I get up to go to work and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. This is demoralizing. You know, I can't do this. And I had a moment of realizing, why should another brother have to do this and not me? What makes me think I'm better than someone else, that I can't do this job? And I fell to my knees in prayer. It really hit me because I thought I was special. I thought I was better than that. You know, this is a job for somebody who's less than me.
Yeah.
And I fell to my knees in my van. I shut the door. I closed the door, like it says in the Bible, close your door and your Father who hears in secret will reward you openly, you know. And I closed the door and I prayed. And I didn't pray for a new job. I prayed for the healing of my mind that had resistance to doing the job. And the next day, I woke up, I went to work, to the toilet block, the big toilet block, and I was so happy. There was the same old shit and piss and stuff everywhere. I was so happy, and I'm like, woohoo! And I got the hose and I'm doing the floor and doing the mopping and I'm making it sparkly. I'm making that toilet as clean as it's ever been, right? And I was so proud of the job I did. Something had shifted in my consciousness. And then after lunch, the lady who owned the place, she comes over to me when I'm sitting having my lunch, and she comes over to me and she goes, Dave, I realise that your heart's really not in this job. She said, I think we're going to let you go. It's like, and she sacked me on the spot. And part of me wanted to argue and go, no, I've had a change of attitude. I've just had this whole shift in consciousness last night, and I'm good. I'm good now. I'm back on, you know. And I wanted to try. And then I thought, no, just accept it. I just got sacked from the job. I'm off. And I went off, and I didn't know what I was going to do next. And I went off, and then, you know, I got a job in the tattoo shop after that. But it's like that whole job was to bring up that energy of resistance that I had. Right? I got that whole thing. That whole thing was a setup. That whole relationship, cleaning the toilets every day. I mean, that went on for like 3 months, I think. But I did some gardening and whatever there as well. But luckily, like I was saying to you, Colin, you're going to have this mind training as you get older, and you're going to be aware of why you're in any given situation when you're there. I had this mind training that was telling me, don't run away from the job. Heal the resistance that it's bringing up. Right? Heal whatever it is that it's bringing up. And that was like one of the shittiest jobs I've had, pardon the pun, but it was like, that was it. You know, I had another really hard backbreaking job working for a block layer. This guy used to do bowling greens. I had a lot of short-term, one-year job kind of things when I was younger, but he used to make bowling greens with artificial turf. But you had to build a three-layer wall of blocks around the bowling green, and like we did this big one at Port Macquarie here in Australia. I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 bowling greens, but they're big. They're like 20 meters by 20 meters, or maybe bigger than that. And 3 rows of blocks. You're there for days and days out in the sun laying blocks, and they're heavy. They're like 10 kilos each, sort of thing, 10 kilos each. By the time you've been laying blocks for an hour, your hands are absolutely abrased away. Your back hurts. Like, it's just one of the worst. It's worse than shearing. It's worse than sheep shearing and working in the sheds. You know, and that was a hard job. But same thing, right? I didn't want to let him down. He was a really nice guy. He gave me a job, gave me a chance, and I learned a lot about concreting and laying blocks, which transfers to laying bricks, everything, and all the different ins and outs. So I was grateful for that part. But the pain, I would go home at the end of every day and my back would just burn, and even when I laid down, burn, and he just used to say to me, "Oh, you'll get used to it." You get used to it. I'm like, I don't want to get used to this. And it brought up all this stuff in me. Eventually, though, I never got really to the point where I released anything on that particular event. The job ended, we finished the thing, and then he went into liquidation, I think, after that, and we never did another job. But you can see what it is that it brings up. Right? You can see the energy. You can feel it coming up. It's like any job. You start a job, at first you're grateful to have a job. See you, Alice. At first you're grateful to have a job. Then after a while it's like, oh, I hate this job. Because the reasons that you need the job for in the first place have been fulfilled, and now it's just a job.
Mm.
Now you got the real work ahead of you, the spiritual work. Even Jesus had his moment of doubt in the Garden of Gethsemane. Let this cup pass from me, Lord, to another, unless it is thy will, and then I'll do it. He had, all his resistance came up. Same thing in the desert, when he went into the desert, 40 days and 40 nights to challenge the devil, to be presented with his temptations. He didn't step out of that circle. He stood there and he let it come up. Same thing, it'll be the same thing for you, whatever. If you have resistance to doing a job, whatever, it's like, I would say, go get a job. Let that resistance come up fully. The reason why you really think that you have resistance to getting a job, it's not what you think. It's all reflective of some part of the world you think you see has the meaning that you've given it. It's directly attributable to your relationship with God. If God is everything, I can't single one little thing out that I have resistance to and say I still have a relationship with God, because that's not true. I either have a relationship with the whole, or I don't have any relationship. I either love unconditionally, or I don't love at all. I'm just loving on my own terms, which is relative. That's not God's love. That's what I've always done. Loving on terms. I'll love you if you live up to my expectations of this, that, or whatever. And it's a tough gig. It really is. It's a tough gig. It's going to push every button you got. If you want to be free, you've got to just really cut that whole string, cut that whole rope. Most people do it bit by bit. Like me, I do it bit by bit. I had the revelation all at once. I didn't have a say in that. It's like Tina confronting what she's confronting, Dana confronting what she's confronting. Everyone's got 10 pounds of shit in their bag. You come here with a 10-pound knapsack. How many lifetimes it takes you to get to the bottom of that knapsack, I don't know. But when you really look at the world and how unfair it is and how unjust it is and how it just completely opposes unconditional love, you'll be wanting to dig to the bottom of that backpack as quick as you can. I see that I don't want to muck around with all this emotional shit. I want to get it done. I want to get it out of me. I want to return to my true power as a child of God and live from my spirit. Most people won't understand that. One of my most favourite examples of that is Mohandas Gandhi. Gandhi just, man, that guy. He was around, Jesus, in the time of Jesus, his 3-year ministry would have been something to see, I'm sure. But Gandhi was so well documented, went through so many different situations in the name of freeing India from imperial rule. If you've never seen that movie with Ben Kingsley, watch it and you'll see the action of atonement in progress, like it's happening. He externalizes it, but it gives you such a beautiful example. Total defenselessness. When they lay down in front of the king's armed horse brigade, you know, all the Indian people, they just lay on the ground. They don't know what's going to happen. There's a whole platoon of armed men on horseback that have come to dispatch with them, you know, to get rid of them. And Gandhi yells out to them, lay down, the horses won't trample you, lay down. And they all lay down on the ground and the horses don't trample them. But they had to take that chance. They had to trust that Gandhi knew what the hell he was talking about. And the horses became nervous and they wouldn't go near the people laying down, and they won that round. You know, totally defenseless. They didn't defend themselves. Like Gandhi's whole perspective on life was, oh God, I can't remember it now. Non-violent, non-cooperation with tyranny. Right? Non-violent, non-cooperation with tyranny. And he set an incredible example which wasn't understood by almost all the people, but he got the job done. He got the job done. People still bitch and cuss about everything that he did and say what a terrible person he was because millions of people died. They were going to die anyway. He was living in a time and in a place where Muslims and Hindus were at each other's throats on a daily basis. And in the middle of that, you had the British Empire trying to tell everybody what to do, as they always do. Everyone playing their part perfectly. For Gandhi to step into the middle of it all, a most unassuming little man, and become an example for a complete alternative that had nothing to do with any of the factions of things that was going on, but yet which included it all. He was there to represent God. Unconditional love. You know, just a little lawyer from Delhi. And in each of our lives, in my life, in your life, there's always going to be a place where you make that confrontation. There's always going to be a place where sometimes the confrontations are small, sometimes the confrontation seems to be even life-threatening. If you get a terminal disease, that's a confrontation. Funny thing is, when the doctor said to me, you've got cancer and we want to start you on chemotherapy straight away, I wasn't even afraid. I don't know whether it just didn't register, whether I was too thick-headed to bloody really comprehend what he was saying, or whether I was in shock or whatever. But I remember walking out of that hospital thinking, because I'd been taking my friend Jan to the chemotherapy unit like once every week or whatever it was, 2 weeks, 10 days or whatever, to get her chemotherapy. And I would sit there and wait for her and see everybody in the ward. And they all got their puke bags, all vomiting and looking like terrible. They look like Dana kind of looks, you know. You know, and I thought, no, feeling kind of empty. Like, now what do? I've just turned down the only solution that I know of. And it took me a few days to gather myself to realize that I was making actually a decision to live my life in faith. That's why I turned it down. And sometimes you get those confrontations and they spring up on you all of a sudden and you don't know how to deal with it. And sometimes you can see them coming from a long way off. Sometimes you know that the confrontation is looming on the horizon and you're going to have to deal with it. And you build up your faith, you build up your strength because you know it's coming. You know you've got to do it. This fear, that fear, whatever it is. You know? And the world would have you dumb it down. Oh, don't be silly. Just fit in with everybody else. Don't challenge anything. Don't create waves. Yeah. Sometimes you got to. Sometimes you got to create waves. Zoe's gonna be a big wave person a few years from now. Yeah, exactly. All right, any questions? Anything? Anyone? Carl, you good? Where are you at there from watching? What part of the world? Doesn't matter. It's a little button down there somewhere. You in Australia? Yeah, you look Australian. Isn't that funny? You can tell people's their look.
There you go. I'm on.
There you go.
I'm Deb's partner. I live around the corner from where you
Oh,
live.
of course. Yeah, of course. Carl, where's Deb? Why aren't you guys on the same screen together? That would be less confusing.
Not
Oh,
a
there's
big enough
Deb.
screen.
Deb's over there. Right. Cool.
Because I have my own emotional shit meltdown over here, and I don't have to be thinking about what he's doing. I can just be present with myself.
Good. Good luck with that too. Noodle, you good? Anyone else? Natasha, what's going on with you? You look far too happy. Connor?
Hello.
Malik? Where are you, Malik? I know Andre's in Africa, in Zimbabwe, was it? Zimbabwe somewhere? No,
Nigeria.
Nigeria. There's like 200 countries in Africa. It's crazy. It's like, I look at the map and it's just like 200 countries. You think Europe's got like different countries, but no questions. Connor, you want to read lesson 44, please?
I have a question.
Who's got a question? Who's got a...
Noah.
Oh, Noah, go for it. Yep.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the people who believes in Jesus with all their heart, but they didn't have the experience and they still believe only the Bible and all their life, and they're doing whatever, I don't know, they're doing, preaching, and so I don't know what's about them.
That's a very loaded question. But so firstly, what about them? Right? Because this is all about you. So part of the idea of mind training is training yourself to realize that your questions is always going to have more questions.
Mm.
If I answer the question, what about them? You'll come up with another question instead of just being still. But the basic answer, and I know where you're headed, the basic answer is simply, what is 10,000 years? For they have come. Right? Everybody gets home. Everybody wakes up. Even people that say, I don't believe in God. Even people that want to nail Jesus to a cross. That includes the sinner and the saint. That includes the people that you think are this and the people you think are that. Everyone's included. Right?
Mm.
I wouldn't leave this continuum with one person behind, not even one ladybug. My atonement is accepting atonement for the whole thing. All my thoughts, all my ideas, even if they want to kill me, even if they want to just, you know. But the idea of time is always against you, because you always want to take as much advantage of time as you can, right? There's nothing worse than wasting time on earth, not putting in the effort to look at your own baggage of shit, right? But in your willingness to do that, it automatically affects others around you, automatically. It cannot not, because your energy changes, your purpose changes, everything changes. And people all of a sudden have another reference point for a possible outcome in life that's not what they thought it was, because they look at you and they go, hey, what's going on with Noah? Let's go and talk to Noah, because all this shit going on, he seems to be cool with it. What does he know we don't know? Right? All that kind of thing. Eventually, religion and all of the people that believe in Jesus through churches and whatever, that's fine, that's great. I don't have any problem with that, right? I've got no problem with anyone or anything. But eventually, every kind of temporal association that you have, whether it's religious or even spiritual, even this Zoom meeting, eventually all of that's got to go. Eventually you stand in the world all by yourself, completely alone, and realize that it's just you and God. Whether you've had an experience of God or not, it doesn't matter. It's you and the great unknown. As a teacher, like one of the things that Jesus says in the Course is, a good teacher teaches them to make themselves redundant to their student, right? It's like for me, I bring you, right? Let's say you and I will walk on this journey together for a while, and I'll bring you right to the edge where you can see what it is that you got to do, where you can see where it is you're about. Then it's up to you. I can't do it for you. I can only show you what's in front of you or help you see that for yourself, right? All the other people, they're not asking me for help. If I walked into a Christian church and said, hey, I had a complete out-of-body thing happen to me and I found myself back in eternity and I remember God perfectly and you were there, they'd think I was crazy. And yet they're standing in a church singing Kumbaya. And I know that they think I was crazy because I have done that, and that is the result that I got. Blank expressions. Except for one church. We went to a Pentecostal church down in Canberra. And it was that was actually an incredible experience. Everyone was just going fucking mental. I would say they were all on drugs, but the energy there was so high. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. And I realized even if I did think I should say anything to anyone or anyone asked me a question, I was just going to shut my mouth because whatever those guys were doing, it was just right on. I was totally for it, you know? So, but there's always going to be more questions. What about this? What about that? You got to realize that there's no answers to your question. There's only God. The thing that you're looking for, the one answer that will answer every question that you have and never will have is God. And then the next question will be, well, how is that possible? There's always going to be another question. Well, find God and you'll find out. Find God and you'll know. Remember your creative source and you'll remember everything, like literally everything. Everything will suddenly make sense. That's what the illumination of the mind is. All of a sudden your ignorance is illuminated and you understand how it is that you've been missing the point for all these years. It's like, holy shit, how didn't I see this? This is just a dream. It's just an illusion. It's like Neo in the Matrix.
Yes.
You know, red pill, blue pill. We don't want to sit here and ask questions about what the ingredients of the red pill and the blue pill are. Just make a choice. Take a damn pill. The experience, and then we can talk about it all makes sense. Until then, you're trying to examine it from a position of nothing makes sense. So any answer I give you is going to fall into the framework of that position. Okay. You know, and you'll think that your ability to try and make sense of my answer conceptually is what I'm actually talking about, and it's not. Because I'm not actually saying anything at all. There is no spoon. Have you seen The Matrix? There's no spoon.
Yeah, there's no.
All right, Connor, let's have that lesson.
What's the page and everything?
Lesson 44, please.
Alrighty, give me one moment.
In the workbook.
Alrighty, I just downloaded it.
Oh, you just downloaded it?
Yeah.
That's
I
fine.
downloaded the audiobook and then I realized I downloaded the wrong thing.
Okay.
You might have to actually skip me because I don't know how to use this.
Who's got a book on them? Deb?
Once I figure it out, I'll tell you.
Anyone got a book? Lesson 44. Andre, you got a book? Andre has a beautiful voice. When he reads a lesson, it's like somebody singing.
Okay,
It's true, man.
I have
You
to jump a little.
Your connection's not so good. Anna? Natalie? Anyone?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Go for it.
Okay. Full lesson.
Yep, the
Lesson
full.
44. Yep. Okay. God is the light in which I see. Today we are continuing with the idea for yesterday, adding another dimension to it. You cannot see in darkness, and you cannot make light. You can make darkness and then think you see in it, but light reflects life and is therefore an aspect of creation. Creation and darkness cannot coexist, but light and life must go together, being but different aspects of creation. In order to see, one must recognize that light is within, not without. You do not see outside of yourself, nor is the equipment for seeing outside you. An essential part of this equipment is the light that makes seeing possible. It is with you always, making vision possible in every circumstance. Today we are going to attempt to reach that light. For that purpose, we will use a form of practice which has been suggested once before and which we will utilize increasingly. It is particularly difficult form for the undisciplined mind because it represents a major goal of mind training.
All right, read that sentence again.
It is particularly difficult form. It is a particularly difficult form for the undisciplined mind because it represents a major goal of mind training.
Good.
It embodies precisely what the untrained mind lacks. Yet the training must be accomplished if you are to see. Have at least 3 practice periods today, each lasting 3 to 5 minutes. A longer time is highly recommended, but only if you find the time merely slipping by with little or no sense of strain. The form of exercise we will use today is the most natural and easy one in the world for the trained mind, just as it seems to be the most unnatural and difficult for the untrained mind.
Right, that distinction is important. Right, that distinction is really important because it tells you that if you do find it difficult and unnatural, your mind is untrained. Okay, so in the application of the lesson, if you find it difficult and unnatural, it means your mind training is not up to par with this major aspect of learning. That's what he's telling you. And this is only 44 lessons in out of 365. Jesus is like a really tough kind of disciplinarian. It's like dance every day on her arm, which I was totally thrilled to hear about because that's what it took for me to do it, so that I didn't forget to do my lesson. Yeah. It's really important. Like when you get to older age and whatever, the idea of study and the idea of discipline, it's out the window. You've left school, you've left college, and it's like you realize, oh, I don't want to have to study for shit anymore. I hate studying. Right? But literally, this is studying for your life. This is studying for transcending the continuum. Keep reading.
Your mind is no longer wholly untrained. You are quite ready to learn the form of exercise we will use today, but you may find that you will encounter strong resistance.
Good.
The reason is very simple. While you practice in this form, you leave behind everything that you now believe and all the thoughts which you have made up. Properly speaking, this is the release from hell. perceived through the ego's eyes, it is loss of identity and a descent into hell. If you can stand aside from the ego ever so little, you will have no difficulty in recognizing that its opposition and fears are meaningless. You might find it helpful to remind yourself from time to time that to reach light is to escape from darkness, whatever you may believe to the contrary. God is the light in which you see. You are attempting to reach him. Begin the practice period by repeating today's idea with your eyes open and close them slowly, repeating the idea several times more. Then try to seek into your mind, letting go every kind of interference and intrusion by quietly sinking past them. Your mind cannot be stopped in this unless you choose to stop it.
Don't choose to stop it.
It is merely taking its natural course. Try to observe your passing thoughts without involvement and slip quietly by them. While no particular form of approach is advocated, what is needful is a sense of the importance of what you are doing.
Right. Exactly. Keep reading.
It's inestimable. Oof, that's a new one. It's inestimable. Oh, God. Inestimable value to you, and an awareness that you are attempting something very holy.
Right.
Salvation is your happiest accomplishment.
Absolutely.
It is also the only one that has any meaning, because it is the only one that has any use to you at all. If resistance rises in any form, pause long enough to repeat today's idea, keeping your eyes closed unless you are aware of fear. In that case, you will probably find it more reassuring to open your eyes briefly. Try, however, to return to the exercises as soon as possible. If you are doing the exercises correctly, you should experience some sense of relaxation and even a feeling that you are approaching, if not actually entering into light. Try to think of light.
Stop there.
Mm-hmm.
So, in slipping by your thoughts, okay, now I asked Tina to put a post that I wrote the other day into the Zoom thing. Did you guys all read it? Okay, about the speed of thought and the speed of light and the speed of being. Being doesn't even have speed, it's a state. Present in an activity of slipping beyond your thoughts, okay? Not light as in light from the sun, light from here, but light as in the light of Christ, which is in your mind and exists in your mind all the time waiting for you to discover it. But if you look at one of the lessons, I think it's lesson 14 or 16, whatever, one of the lessons is where Jesus says to you, imagine your thoughts as an oddly assembled parade of thoughts going by, or, whatever. I always think of it like a train, right? And each train has carriages. On this carriage is my thoughts about this person, this situation. On that carriage is my thoughts about monkeys. On that carriage, my thoughts about lions. It's just like a circus. It's crazy. Everything's like jugglers and clowns and entertainment, right? That's what it's packaged as, entertainment. But between each carriage is a little gap where it joins to the next carriage, right? But like a roll of film, right? When you have the old 8mm film to make a movie, it's 24 frames a second. That roll of film goes past in the camera so fast, you see the picture, but you don't see the little thin line that joins the two images together or all the images together. There's 24 frames a second, so in every second there's 24 opportunities to find that thin black line of the negative film that connects the pictures, right? When you're meditating, one of the things that the Course does is helps you to slow down or to focus on your thoughts rather than to react to them and push them away. Jesus uses several techniques of different meditation in the Course, right? One of those you're going to find helpful and useful. There's 2 or 3 different kinds. You'll find them as you go through the workbook, right? The one that worked for me and still works for me and always works for me is I slow my thoughts down as if I'm looking at a roll of film, and I become aware of where it is that one thought ends and the next thought starts. And you might think they don't really start. They're like this amorphous kind of gel of blah, blah, blah going on in there. But it's not actually true. It is like an oddly assorted procession going by. With discipline and mind training, you can train yourself if you step back to observe rather than interact with the thoughts. You can step back to observe, and just as like a devout Buddhist monk can slow down their heartbeat, slow down their metabolism, slow down everything, you can slow down your thoughts to the point where when you're getting to the end of the workbook, Jesus says, and now we say God is and we cease to speak. Right? Anyone who tries to do that without any significant mind training can't cease to speak. The mind just babbles on. What do you mean? How do I stop this voice? How do I stop this speaking? But literally, and now we cease to speak. We cease to speak in the next thought you don't have. You cease to speak in the gap between your thoughts. And it's in the gap between your thoughts that when you learn to focus on it and when you learn to feel the subtle energy, because it feels different. It's all of a sudden it's something new. What's this? What's this gap? I've never noticed it before because I've been so preoccupied watching this film of my life. These meaningless thoughts, right? All of a sudden, hang on a minute. There's something between my thoughts. Hang on a minute. There's a door. There's a gap. There's a passageway. Knock and the door shall be opened. Seek and you shall find. Right? All of a sudden, there's this thin little place in consciousness in the rapidity of my thoughts that I've trained myself to focus on instead of my thoughts by simply being still, by simply being very still in my mind and allowing it to present itself to me. And all of a sudden, because like attracts like, I'm attracted to it and it's attracted to me, and boom shanka, there's the connection, and I'm out of here, right? Direct light. Every time, like that. Every time I open my mind, it's not that I'm suddenly stopping thinking or trying to stop my thoughts. I'm instead focusing on the silent place between my thoughts. At first, it's difficult to do. It's like that lesson we just read. An untrained mind accomplishes very little, which is why the mind training is a discipline, and you've got to take it on board as that until finally you get the results. Right? In my flashes of light and thresholds of light and orbital sort of halos of light, then where the hell is this light coming from? Right? Jesus is telling me, you do have a connection to God. You do have a connection within yourself. You have to find it. You got to purify yourself of all that other crap that's distracting you and keeping you preoccupied with the world, so you can learn to be better still in your own mind and know what it is the truth of yourself is. Right? But your mind operates in slow time. In that post that I wrote, by the time the light from the sun reaches the retina of your eye, that takes 8 minutes, right? And I'm using an external example to illustrate this. That takes 8 minutes. So what you're actually looking at there in the sky is now actually over here, 8 minutes worth of time away, and you're looking at a blank space. That's the whole condition of the human consciousness. You're not actually looking at anything where it actually is, and you're not responding to things as they actually are. You're always responding to things in the past that have already occurred, because your mind is making it up first, then projecting it out. Then you look upon it and determine its reality according to your preferences and get the results of that thinking by the judgments that you then make about it and perpetuate it. Does that make sense? It's not out there that's affecting you. It's your thoughts you're projecting out there onto a neutral landscape, onto a completely barren landscape. I'm projecting my opinions, my judgments, my everything onto this person, situation, or event, and I'm getting the results of that, and it's keeping me in slow time. It's preventing me from actually transcending or traversing the terrain of my consciousness and finding that gap, finding that door where I can knock and it shall be opened and the truth will be revealed. Because the truth is seen in light. That's a discipline. And there's nothing in me that's not in you that can't do that. It's a matter of willingness. Right? It's a matter of willingness. I'm not special. I'm just as klutzy and stupid as any other person on the planet. I'm just Dave. I don't even get a fancy name. Dear one. Everyone's dear one. There's no badge. There's no little trophy to put up on the shelf and hooray, you remembered who you are. There's nothing. But that's the purpose. That's the whole point of mind training. Now, you're going to have those experiences. Jesus calls them holy instants. You'll have them in relationships with people, right? In relation to relationships with people. Let's say Deb here. Deb and I are having this interaction. All of a sudden, Deb says, how's the weather today? And I refuse to answer. I'm just like, nah, not doing that. I see that this is something that keeps coming around again. It's one of Deb's things. When she gets uncomfortable, she asks me, how's the weather? And it's like, I'm not here to verify and try to nullify her discomfort. I'm going to stand here in an empty space. And hopefully she's going to join me in that empty space because she's been doing a little bit of mind training maybe. She might have a bit of a lean on it more than just your random shopkeeper. Hopefully with some mind training, she'll recognize her cycle, and in that moment we join together and allow that space to be there without filling it up. Right? Now, something else can happen in that space because God is ever present. There is no actual space. God is everywhere and everything, including the idea of what I think is in the space. And I can witness to it if I don't adjust. Because as soon as I leave that space, I'm going to start to feel uncomfortable. Oh, I'm being a dick. I'm being a dick to poor old Deb. She only wanted to talk about the weather. Why don't I just say, yeah, it's lovely weather, then we can just get on with our lives. Well, that's a purpose I don't have a use for anymore. And neither does Deb. We're willing to make the confrontation. We're willing to make that uncomfortable place a reality for a second and see what's there actually, what we're trying to cover over with our meaningless thoughts. And you do that in your physical relationships, but eventually everything turns within. Eventually you realize that the external world reflects the internal world, and halfway you get through the workbook and it's more inclined to be looking at your thoughts internally as an idea of that's where you're going to make the changes. Right? And you'll still get the external witnesses. You'll still get relationships, people, situations and things changing. It's like Tina with her rats. That was a great one. All of a sudden everything changes. Where's Carrie? Carrie with her boss and her next door neighbour. Right? But you've got to keep at it. Those relationships and those grievances, you've got to keep at it. Otherwise, your ego will just sort of have any profound significance. The profound significance should be it's like, holy shit, I applied the principle to realise I was wrong. And then something else flowed after that, right? Don't stop, keep going. Get out of your comfort zone at every expense, whatever it costs you. Get out of your comfort zone. Give up the world. Claire. Lesson 45, please. Can you read? Yep. Each of you has light because it's what you are. The journey of self-discovery isn't about realizing how false you are as a human being. It's about realizing the true nature of your original self, your divine self. Realizing the true, or better, realizing the false nature of who you are as a human being is implicit in that process and essential in that process. Go for it.
God is the mind with which I think.
Right, stop. Everyone else close your eyes for a second. God is the mind with which I think. Let that in. God is the mind with which I think. God is the mind with which I think. All my other thoughts about what the mind is with which I think, all of a sudden just out the window. Whoop. Wait a minute, Jesus is telling me God is the mind with which I think. Ego's going to say, what does that mean? How's that relative? How do I control that and manipulate it? Well, controlling it and manipulating it is what this looks like. Been doing that all along. Keep reading.
Today's idea holds the key to what your real thoughts are.
Your real thoughts.
They are nothing that you think you think. Just as nothing that you think you see is related to vision in any way.
In any way. In any way. Can you get a sense of the situation you're in now? In any way. You know how there's scientists and people out there talking about quantum physics and whether it's real or whether the universe isn't real and it's just all particles and waves and whatever. And here we are manipulating it already. They're still 100 years from what's actually going on. And here we are with Jesus, and he's saying, not in any way. It doesn't reflect your true thoughts in any way. Now what do? Because the next thing that happens is I want to use one of my thoughts to look at that idea with. Wait, he just told me it doesn't reflect the true nature of my thoughts in any way. I'm screwed. I can't use my thoughts then to try and work out what he means. I'll just let Jesus mean what he means, and I'll accept that I don't know what he means. Right? And I'll leave it gap. I'll leave it empty so I can be shown. If this truly is the Matrix, and I truly am Neo, and you guys truly are Neo in your own association, this is the blue pill or whatever color he took. I forget now, but this is the awakening. This is what it looks like. And I'm always finding myself having to sort of slap my own cheeks to make me realize it. It's like, holy shit, this is actually a thing. I've got a book. Am I just reading this book, and is this just a pastime, or am I actually trying to crack the Matrix? Yes, you're actually trying to crack the Matrix, and it's going to happen in your own mind. Have a true spiritual experience. Keep reading.
There is no relationship between what is real and what you think is real. Nothing that you think are your real thoughts resemble your real thoughts in any respect.
In any respect. Holy shit.
Nothing
Life
that
is
you think.
what I think it is.
Nothing that you think you see bears any resemblance to what vision will show you.
None. No resemblance. No resemblance. This is why you have to become revelation ready. It's going to shock the hell out of you when you realize what life actually is. There's no arms and legs, there's no trees, there's no cars, there's no world, planets, stars, oceans, there's nothing, there's none of that. It's totally different.
You think with the mind of God. Therefore, you share your thoughts with him as he shares his with you. They are the same thoughts because they are thought by the same mind. To share is to make alike or to make one. Nor do the thoughts you think with the mind of God leave your mind, because thoughts do not leave their source. Therefore, your thoughts are in the mind of God as you are. They are in your mind as well, where he is. As you are part of his mind, so are your thoughts part of his mind. Where then are your real thoughts? Today we will attempt to reach them. We will have to look for them in your mind, because that is where they are. They must still be there, because they cannot have left their source. What is thought by the mind of God is eternal, being part of creation. Our 3 5-minute practice periods for today will take the same general form that we used in applying yesterday's idea,
Good, that'll do. Do you begin to get a sense of understanding that nothing you think is how things actually are? Claire? It's like it's really not what I think. It's never going to be what I think. He's telling me that it doesn't resemble, my thoughts about what I think reality is don't resemble reality in any way. There's a place in my mind where I just shut the hell up and let Jesus do the talking. It's like, all right, I have nothing to contribute to this conversation, Jesus, because you just told me that my thoughts don't reflect anything to do with the vision that you're offering me. Not one of them. Now what do? I'd be still. I'd be still and know that I am God. I'd be still and enter into silence, enter into serenity, enter into that sacred place within me, which he just told me is still there in me, where my truth. That's a disciplined and meditative step. Mind training is essential. It is required. This is a required course. I'm attempting to leave behind the world I think I see. I'm attempting to transcend the world, to rise above, to ascend into the spheres where my actual life still carries on. Broken. It's totally bizarre. You guys ever see that movie, the Marvel movie, where they travel through the multiverses? and one of the multiverses is paint, and all of a sudden they become beings of paint, different colors and fluid and like just almost like a liquid, but it's still them. It's more different than that. It's more different than that. But when you experience it, you'll recognize it as your true home, your true nature, your true state, and you won't want to come back here. You've been conditioned to here, but it's not natural. You've been conditioned to this world, but it's not your home. You've done your best to fit in and to play the game. It's like you've been stuck in this virtual reality kind of world where 99% of the people in it are NPCs. And it's bizarre. It's freaking bizarre. That's why you need mind training, because without it, you're going to lose what little sense of normality and conscious and sanity that you think you have. When reality dawns on, I was useless to anyone for at least 3 years, and I definitely couldn't teach anything for about 6. For 3 years after my awakening, I was a laughing, gibbering mess, basically. I could order food, I could clean my house, I could do basic stuff. But if I had to engage anyone in conversation with meaningless, pointless, empty, nothing concepts about this, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. My mind it was like quicksand. All of a sudden, my consciousness felt like it was bogged down, and I just literally couldn't talk to people. Which is why I guess people go off and become hermits. But with the mind training, I've been going through this mind training, now I'm kind of useful to a certain group of people. I'm useful to a certain expression. It's like when Jesus says 2 in 10,000 will hear this. You guys are my 2 in 10,000. I'm going to do my damnedest to make sure you can hear what I say, knowing full well that you're going to resist what I'm saying. The idea of sitting here, the idea of reading the book, the idea of doing the lessons is what resistance is. Because in the moment of true acceptance, you're gone from the world, you're out of here. So you can think of this whole situation as like a debriefing. It's like a departure lounge. This guy keeps saying the same shit on the overhead. He keeps telling me I'm perfect, I'm whole and perfect, and I'm not this thing. And I can just lay this thing down when I'm really, when I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready for that yet, but I'll keep listening. Same thing. What about my kids? What about my job? What about my house? What about all the bills I've got to pay? What if I have an out-of-body experience and I suddenly become incapable of going back to work? More than likely. You're going to have to get a different kind of job. We had an ice cream shop, and I'll just end with this little story, but Alice is gone. But we had an ice cream shop at the healing centre. So our healing centre used to be a whaling station, right, in the old days. And then it became a slaughterhouse, like an abattoir. And then that fell into ruin and whatever. And Adele and Christopher took it over and turned it into a church, like the most unlikely church, right? Big rooms, big cold rooms, which they demolished and all that sort of stuff. Turned it into a church. And right next door was this massive set of buildings that was had been partially demolished, right? And it was in a state of disrepair. Parts of it were cordoned off, and other parts had been repurposed for little sort of funny, weird shops, Anyway, we decided to open an ice cream shop so that all the guys that were having experiences and were going through major shifts in consciousness could still have a place where they could have an interface with the general public and maintain some kind of sense of interaction and normalcy, right? And so you would be behind the counter serving ice cream to people. People come in, I have 2 scoops of chocolate. And some of the guys, it was as much as they could do to figure out which was the chocolate, right? Because their minds were so baked from hours and hours of meditation, hours and hours of inner work, so much stuff. They'd look at the ice cream and it'd be like, there's no recognition of what I'm doing here. Because their minds are no longer operating properly on this, you know. But it was the simplest job you could ever get, serve ice cream to people. Right? And it kind of gets to that. There's parts you go through when you do have a big shift in consciousness. Jesus talks about it in the Course and says, every time you experience a shift in consciousness, there will be confusion and a sense of disorientation. Right? My own experience with that is that it usually lasts 3 or 4 days, a shift in consciousness. Disorientation 3 or 4 days after, it's like having a hangover that won't go away and you just, I can't deal with it today, right? So the revelation, however, left me completely bombed out for years. If it wasn't for all the guys in the healing center, I wouldn't be here today. They kept bringing me back home to here and now. Stay in the present, Dave. Because that experience supercharges your ego. That experience just gives a total revealing of light. It's like at a worst case scenario, at a least case scenario, you get the Messiah complex where you want to heal everybody and everyone should listen to you and whatever. And we used to have this guy come around the healing center at night and he'd had an experience, you could tell. But he would stand there at night after closing time, everyone would be in bed and he'd suddenly start standing in the courtyard where we had lunch and he'd be preaching like at the top of his voice because he knew that there was people in the cabins and in the houses around who were all attending the healing center and he wanted us to be his audience, you know. And as much as we tried to explain to him, dude, we're all the Christ. We are all the Christ. There's not one person who's the Christ. It's not you. It's all of us. You know, we're all dealing with this thing together. And as much as we would try to offer him a way in so that he could begin to process his delusions and whatever, not possible. His mind was already too far gone and he ended up in the ward, you know. And at a worst case scenario, you kill yourself. You destroy your body. Because the mind reacts so in such a rejection of what this is, because suddenly you know the truth about yourself. I'm not this body. And the conflict, the paradox between finding yourself in the body or of a body and knowing that you're not the body is intolerable. It was completely intolerable for me. I did not want to be here. I did not want to be back here. But I recognized that somewhere in here in the dark night of my soul, I prayed to Jesus for a way to be helpful to my brothers that was out there in the world like me trying to make sense of their lives. And I realized that this was my chance. I'd been given something incredible and now all I had to do was learn how to use it. And even that I'm still doing today. I'm still learning today how to use it, how to use the gift that was given to me, day after day, moment after moment. Feeling it all, feeling it every damn step of the way. I know I seem to be a little bit chipper and a little bit like, woohoo, because in here there's a sense that I'm out of the rough now. I'm out of the worst part of it. I don't know if that's true, but that's how it seems to be. But I've put in the work. I've done the work. I still don't trust myself. I still hold true to I'm a liar and the son of a liar. But I've learned to accept that. It's no longer a confrontation. It's like, all right, I could be kidding myself here, but I'm going to take a step. I love you guys. My name is unstable, it says. Be honest with where you're at. Be honest with where you find yourself. I don't want God. That's the honest place. I don't want God. Fuck you, God. I don't want to know nothing about this. I just want a better life in the dream. Get to that place. That's an honest place. Then you can do the work. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you for having me, everybody. It was nice to meet y'all.
Goodbye, Connor. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you. Love you.
I love you all. Thank you.
Hi, Tina. I love you, Tina. You're muted if you're talking. You don't have to, though.
I have to use my phone as a mouse.
What's that?
I have to use my phone as a mouse. Did the mic stop working too?
Oh, I can hear you. It's just low.
Yeah, I think everything stopped. The mouse, my buds, the mic. I just said, "How are you?"
I'm okay. Well, the elevator.
Yeah. I wish I could be on the other side to, to help you now. But take comfort in I'm with it. I'm in there with you. So you have a comrade with you, okay? I really wish I could be on the other side pulling you out, but we're linking arms, okay?
Yeah, you know. I wish I could do the same for you.
No, you're linking arms. That's good. We're linking arms.
I don't know if I'm strong enough to do it.
Carrie, I could throw a cliche out. I could throw a course quote out. I mean, that's the first thing that pops into my fucking mind. But I don't know either. I don't know if I'm strong enough either. That's all I can really, like, with sincerity say is I don't know either. And the mind training tells me it's not my strength.
Yeah.
And it's in this place that I have to admit that I don't know if I can. And this, from this place, I have to ask for help and admit my best attempts at this, even my best attempts as a spiritual ego, fail me. What does it say? And again, I hate doing this right now, but that's what my mind training tells me is I am sustained by the God, the Son of the God of Son. I am sustained. What is it? By the love of God. It goes over all of the things I think can sustain me instead of God. And again, I don't believe it right now. I don't believe it right now. So I'm here with you in it. And all I can do is tell you something outside of time. A slight part in my mind remembers. And I just have to cling to that being true and not what I'm thinking right now.
Right.
Not what I'm thinking right now. Not how I'm feeling right now. Because honest to God, I tell you what, I know there's more, and I don't want to jump over there so fast. I know there's more. I don't want to jump because I'm really tired. And I think I'm right, Carrie. I think I'm right.
I know.
I think I'm right. My mind is like, fuck Dave. Fuck this group. Fuck you. And then I look and I see two other people of color. And I'm like, fuck you guys. Why aren't you? I mean, it's like, I'm going to make this. I'm going to make myself right.
Yeah.
Everybody's wrong but me. So there's more. It's like, fuck. I don't know that I'm even willing, but I'm going to stay until I am.
Yeah.
That's why I don't want to jump so fast over there. But I want, I know you might need it. You might need it. I need it. Thank you for having me at least reminding myself. Oh, it's just so layered. It's so layered. It's like a web. Because my mind will go right to something else right there.
Yeah.
And that means you're a fucking fraud. That means, you know what I mean? That's what we're right to. It's like, well, that means you're a fucking fraud. You know what I mean? It's like, and now I'm wound in thing, that thought.
It's just the surrender, but I don't know. Fucking.
Well, it looks like what you're doing right now. It's just don't adjust right now. So let that be a remembrance in the mind and let it, if you can, just lay it at the root if you can.
I know I
And
keep
if you
doing
can, sorry, go ahead.
same shit, like, oh, but you don't know, like, but it's different, but it's different, but it's different. Like, like, just feels so fucking, I mean, it's all the same. I know it's all the fucking same. It's all the same. Just feels like so fucking isolating and separate. Fucking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then my mind says it become more separate. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, I'm gonna feel so separate in this group as always.
Yeah,
And then
right.
all of it's separation, separation, and it goes, and you should be more separate, and you should
Yeah,
leave.
you
Leave.
should fucking, right.
You should leave now.
Yeah, yeah,
Became a
because
seek and never find. It's like be still right here. Mhm.
don't even know how to talk. I don't even know how to talk.
It's good. I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm like, it's the light that heals. It's the light that heals. You know, and the words are just a reminder that it's the light. It's the next thought you don't have. You know, because what's upsetting right now, I mean, I'm looking in my own mind. What's upsetting me are just my thoughts. My thoughts. It's as simple as that.
I don't know what to say. I felt I don't know. Felt you. Felt you. But I don't know. Maybe not.
Well, the good news is I'm wrong. I'm wrong. And I say I'm willing to be wrong, and then the next second I pick it back up with a vengeance, you know?
Do you ever feel just fucking crazy? You just feel like this is fucking crazy shit.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't have anywhere to go, you know what I mean? I just don't have anywhere to go in this because, yeah, it feels like fuck you guys, fuck you all, like fuck you, Natasha, for laughing. What are you fucking laughing about? What are you laughing about? Why are you so fucking joyful? Why are you so fucking joyful? You know what I mean? So yeah, there's that, and then there's if I'm right. How fucked up is that? Me and Greg were talking about this today. How fuck this? It's like a shit show right now. It's just a total shit show. And he was, he wrote his congressman.
He did.
He said he thinks this is the last little action he's going to take. He used to be really into politics.
Yeah, yeah.
But he's like, he started the conversation off with, every day is something. It's crazy. Every day. Like, what did I tick the boxes on? I tick the boxes on every fucking thing. Nazis.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything I ticked. And Greg started off with, every day this shit show. He goes, and isn't it beautiful they can stop in an instant, that we have the miracle. And I was like, yeah. It's like, yeah.
I just wanted to stop. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, the only place it's gonna stop is in my ideas about it, and I don't quite, I just look at it and go, really, really, still. And it's just so simple. I can't even, I'm trying to talk to Dave about symbolically what's happening. And it's like, you know what I mean? I'm trying to sort of, Kendrick Lamar is going to be on the stage and Donald Trump is in the, I mean, and I can feel myself grasping at a way to kind of keep it, and I know I can talk in a way that I can convince other people,
Yeah, right.
And it's like David's like the whole thing. And for me, it's like, oh fuck you, you're standing up for something. You're fucking standing up for this side. You've been standing up for this side. You ain't giving this side no fucking anything. But you get this side all the fucking energy. You know what I mean? That's just how it feels in my mind. And it's like, even if I'm right, so the fuck what? It's mine, you know what I mean? It's me, even if I'm right about that. And I feel like I am, like, fuck you, Dave. Trump can do fucking anything and you go, it's good. You know what I mean? And then you tell me the story about fucking Gandhi. What the fuck? Then what is it? Then what is it? What is it? Because I feel like standing up to tyranny right now. But you telling me he's not the tyrant? Then fuck you. I don't know. But however, it doesn't matter because drop the whole thing. That fucking means drop that too. Drop the whole thing. It would be easier. It would be easier. But that gives me a reason to leave too. It just gives me a reason like fuck off. Fuck off. You just got it in your mind because Jordan Peterson, because I see like his YouTube channel, I see what he hears. It's the opposite of what comes into my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
So that was, I mean, but again, did I make this shit up or did I not? Am I responsible for the entirety of it or not? Am I responsible for it? It's either all in or all out. I don't get to pick and choose when it gets to the place of Dave now. All of a sudden, I'm seeing only Dave as an objective thing. No, I'm still seeing. I forget the difference between those two. Objective is subjective. I forget the difference. I'm seeing Dave as something like really like out there, separate from my thoughts about Dave. You know what I mean? I don't. You know what I mean? I don't get to make that exception. Like I'm still projecting on to even Dave. So the fact that my mind brings up, oh yeah, well, he's getting a certain kind of viewpoint of the world and you're getting a certain viewpoint of the world. Viewpoints, period, are making the whole fucking thing up in my mind. Either I am or I'm not.
Yeah.
Either I am or I'm not.
You're looking at the statue from different angles.
And there is no statue.
Right.
There is no statue.
Yeah.
I'm making a statue. You know what I mean? And it's like either I'm in it or I'm not. Either I'm gonna, and I'm saying these things to people. This is what's fucking me up. I'm saying these things to people.
Yeah.
And then that fucks me up. And again, it would have to fuck me up because that's the whole point of the game is to keep me fucked up. And drop the whole thing. So all I can be is with you, sis. I mean, because I just feel like a fucking fraud. I mean, even when I'm doing all of these projects and stuff, even while I'm doing these projects, this is going through my mind. What the fuck are you doing? Why are you doing so much? This is just, you know what I mean? And I hear myself and I go, okay, those are just, my thoughts, da, da, da. But, they're just these thoughts that come up, but they keep supporting you're a fuck up, you're a fucking fraud. And it just keeps supporting that at some point, as opposed to pretending like I'm not hearing them.
Yeah, right.
And I don't know, it feels confusing when I look out there. The reflections back I get are confusion.
Yeah.
And I can keep fighting, and wanting the confusion to what, like when even asking him about that, and I had to ask him about that, but then I also feel like, what the fuck, what's up with Gandhi? What do you say? And what's up with your clan thing? What's up with that? Like, where is?
Well, I do the same thing.
It's just too confusing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Do the same thing. I had the same thoughts. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, Gandhi?
Yeah. What's the clan initiative? What is that? I mean, and so the fuck what? I'm the one that's I'm the one that's conflicted and miserable, and I don't want to debate it. Well, it's like I'm arguing for my victimhood. I'm arguing for it. He says I'm a holy son of God. I'm neither of those things. I go, no, fuck you. I got a whole blah, blah, blah. I am. And I need it acknowledged. Fuck. And then I compound it by going, and what about your shit? And what about your shit? And what about Gandhi? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm arguing against what's being offered. What's being offered to me is you're completely innocent, whole, complete. It never happened. You are loved and loving. Period. You're not any of those things. And I go, yeah, well, what about when you say that about that over there? That must mean that some people are special and some people aren't special. So I'm the one that's, you know what I mean? Like, fuck you, Dave. Fuck off. Fuck off. You say that, then what am I gonna stand in? That's the whole fucking defenseless lesson right there. He brings it up. My mind goes, nah, nah, nah. Just confirms in my mind that this is right and this is wrong. He's right and I'm wrong, or whatever. When fuck the whole he says, he's also saying the same forked tongue to drop the whole thing.
Right.
And then I go, why aren't you dropping it? You know what I mean? It's bullshit. It's bullshit. When I do that, I just get to maintain it. Then you do it first. You make it make sense to me to not be a victim, to not be oppressed. Then you make it make sense to not be a brawler. You make it make sense. So honest to God, I tell you what I do say in those moments. I'm real, you know how I am. But I just say, Jesus, you have to make it make sense. 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 You tell me that I don't have to do anything prior to, that it's my own resistance. Fuck off. Fuck off. This is the best I got. And I want to hear you. I want to hear you. And Greg would tell me, I just heard him in my voice, in my head just now, he would say, and where is your Jesus? That's not how he says it, but he's always
really
like,
say you left your message today. You didn't really say what your conversation with him was.
It's hard to even talk about it now because it was so beautiful in the moment, and it's sort of like with Dave's thing about being in the moment. I was trying to tell Dave what was going on. It was so cool because it was that's what would happen today. Like I'm just right on. It's a hairline. It's just as soon as I came into I didn't want to come to Satsang. I knew. And it was just like with Greg, he was talking about, I don't even know how it came up. We were talking about ghost, and he said something about ghost. And it was, he's so embodied. He so embodies it.
I know.
I mean, everything. He just is so, and he was telling me about a scene, which I kind of want to watch now in Ghost. Because I haven't seen it ever, I think. But I knew the characters, and he was like, Whoopi Goldberg was a fake and a fraud. And when he was telling me about that, I thought that's pretty really cool teaching. She was a fake psychic, and so when I guess Demi Moore or whatever came to her, Patrick Swayze came, and when Patrick Swayze entered in her, all of a sudden she was real. Like she could really, like she just could really, and now she can see everyone. You know, all of the people, because she was real now. She was fake before. He came in, and then she was useful. And that was like really cool. But Greg was telling me the joke. He says probably the best joke line in the movie. And so he sets it all up and he tells the joke. And it's so fucking good. I'm not gonna be able to do it. And I realize it's because he embodies it. Like because he's like, you have to know your audience. You know what I mean? Because we're talking about he goes, when people are coming to the satsang, he goes, I can feel that they're like on that edge. He says, and you have to know like what to give them. And in the same thing, he's like, I don't know if he's talking about the audience with this, but I said back to him, I was like, you got the right audience. Because the joke was perfect, but it wasn't just the joke. It was that he really was invested in the joke. There was not anything. He was totally invested because he had to. And then I had told him the story about the Jamaican guy on the bus
Yeah.
and the part where and it was so cool when he did this. The part where the woman, I didn't even know she was behind me. Me and the guy are doing our thing. We're worshiping and disturbing the
Yeah.
bus, I would imagine. And then this woman gets up and she's walking out and she turns to me. She got tears in her eyes and she goes, "Y'all blessed me this morning." And yeah, and it's like, you don't even know. But this is what this is. I mean, that was that. But
Yeah.
Greg, he starts like crying when I tell him the story. He's just like crying and laughing. And then I hear him real subtle in my ear as I'm like laughing and crying, go, "Y'all bless me this morning." And he says it exactly like the woman. You know what I mean? And so it's such one of those moments where
Yeah.
he was, "Y'all bless me this morning." And it was like, how do you do that? And it's the same thing when he told me the joke is just he has this embodiment, but he was talking about, sorry, that's how the conversation started about this hairline trigger. Like you can go either way and he can feel that. So as we're talking, I was like, that's like the yesterday. And I think it was the joke or something. What did he say? The joke or something, where I fell into this laughter. And it was like this, the same hairline trigger, like it was perfect. I was right on the edge of something. I could cry or I could laugh. It was right there. And he said it, and it was so perfect. The story was so perfect. It was like a holy instant.
I was just gonna say, was
Well, it was like a holy instant because it wasn't just the joke. It was like the fact that he was telling about an embodiment, about being on the hairline. And I told him, I said, it's the exact same thing as yesterday when Dave said to give this that post to you guys. And I had seen that post and fucking dismissed it because I'm like, it's too many words. I hate these. I mean, I don't understand what you're saying. Why do I got to know about the sun and the time? And why do I have to know that stuff? It's too many words. Why am I so lost? I just put it away. When he told me to send it to you guys, this is what he said, which really got me. Because we're gonna do this tomorrow. I'm like, how the fuck do you do this? It sounds like somebody just read. What are you talking about? But okay. And then he goes, and especially you. And I was like, I don't even fucking know what this is. And it was like I was on the edge already. Because honest to God, this is recorded. I'm gonna probably stop recording this part.
Okay. It records that long.